All right, everyone. Good morning and welcome back. Welcome back to our HackCon Master Scanning class, Cybersecurity 101. Welcome back to day two. I hope you had a good time yesterday. Good morning, good evening. And now, I'm sorry, it's actually evening for many of us. So I hope you're having a great day. Really excited to get started again and to continue on with our lesson for day two. Now, before we get started, I'd like to ask, are there any questions from yesterday? Any lingering concepts? Anything like, I have this question? Anything like that? Do you have anything for me before we get started? I am not seeing any questions. That's okay. No news is good news. So we will continue on with today's masterclass. Welcome back. Welcome to day two. For our workshop, this is where we are. Yesterday we went over the beginning and ended with the initial portions of our advanced scanning. Today we will continue in that advanced scanning as well as get into vulnerability scanning, discovering vulnerabilities on the systems that we own slash the system that we wish to protect, as well as additional enumeration steps. And then we'll get into some exploitation primer, the beginning of how do we go about attacking and exploiting those machines that we have. Now our courseware, to remind us again, our courseware is here. This is where you can download the virtual machines from Dropbox. You can either use this link here or this link down at the bottom. This link here at the bottom is a much better and much more preferred way to download the virtual machines, just in case something happened to your virtual machines from yesterday. The slides as well as the scans and slides, and then examples of scans that we are running just in case something goes wrong. You can follow along with us in the course, in the presentation. We upload it to our Google Share, so everything should be a nice, good, fresh, clean upload for you. Okay. And then you all are here, so clearly you found the Zoom conference link, as well as the meeting ID and passcode are right here. Yep. And then also yesterday, just one disclaimer: it's that everything that we talk about here, this is me on behalf of myself, my thoughts with HackCon. Those views do not necessarily represent the views of the Department of the Air Force or the Department of Defense. Here are some references that we're go over. So as I mentioned, this course is over a week-long course that we have compressed into a few days. We're giving you the nice, good, juicy nuggets from that course. The majority of the curriculum can be found within these 6 books. And so if you'd like to dive further, learn more, explore more, see additional aspects of what we're doing, you can refer to these resources and they will give you a good head start. All right, now to review a few things from day one. We mentioned that the cyber attack methodology big picture, we want to achieve three main goals slash objectives. The first one is to get in, the second one is to stay in, and the third one is to act. So get into a system, gain access to whatever it is that is protected that we're trying to go after with the cyber attack. Act, do some sort of action. What are we intending to do? Do we want to scan, pillage, pivot, do whatever is the aspects, the intentions of the attack? Right? We act to do something. And then staying in. How do we want to stay in to avoid detection, stealth and persistence, and remain, burrow in, bed inside that machine slash network as long as possible? Our phases of the attack that we mentioned, 5 main phases of that cyber attack. Your reconnaissance, phase one, you always start with reconnaissance. You always do that reconnaissance slash research on the target network that we're going to analyze for vulnerabilities. Then scanning, and also just to caveat, this is our direct method. And this is the direct method from our attacker machine over to the victim machine. I am directly going out to connect to those, to the individual or to that victim machine. So now I scan. Scan to determine live systems, active hosts on the network, open ports, likely services, and especially versions. So we also remind you from yesterday, whenever we go about attacking a computer machine, you don't like hack, you don't hack into the computer. Go hack into the computer. That's not a thing. You don't break into computers. Instead, you take advantage slash you exploit a vulnerable or a weak service. You take over that service to make it work in ways it was not initially intended from the programmers, and this is what gives you access onto that machine. And from that point, you carry out additional attacks, or you pivot from that standpoint. You don't attack a machine, you attack a vulnerable service. In our normal attack, scanning, attack, and then gain access to a victim machine. Then we scanned. We know what systems are up. We know what ports are active. We know what versions are specific. We go about attempting to penetrate that system. Penetration testing. You're gaining access to the computer system slash the network that you wish to analyze. Using various tools, that is where we are spending the majority of our time tomorrow in our session. How do you do that exploitation, access the system, migrate to other machines, carry out different types of attack, and exploit as many vulnerabilities as possible in the systems that we have. Now that we have penetrated the system, we have gained access, we have established that initial foothold, there are other actions that we want to do. And this is where we go from getting in to acting. I'm on the system, what else? You see here that we have the privilege escalation. Elevate our privileges. Usually, whenever you get access to a system, you will start out as the user, as user level, because it's a user's program that was running under the current user run level that you're accessed. Then from that point, we may try to see how do we elevate our privileges higher so we carry out additional attacks. Like I want to grab the password hashes. I want to establish myself on the registry for persistence. I want to move over to other systems, but I need root level permission to carry out additional attacks. This is where we may need root privilege escalation. Different techniques exist. It is getting harder to do that privilege escalation because operating systems are becoming more and more secure. Because quite frankly, Microsoft is tired of seeing themselves on the news that another attack has just surfaced, and this attack has been prevalent for the last who knows how many years without any defense. So they are also making it harder and harder to escalate privileges and to carry out the attack. But there is still hope. There will always be hope as long as the attackers are savvy. And we execute or we employ different techniques to exploit, to attack computer machines. Again, I'm still on the machine. I want to act pillage. Do I want to steal information, steal documents, exfiltrate data, or infiltrate data? That too is a thing in which I may use this system that I gain access to as a hop point or as a leverage. From that area, I can now have others to download information from that, or I can harvest a lot of documents from the network, put it onto a single system as a staging point, and then come in from another area and download that information off. That also happens. So it just depends. What are we trying to do once we're inside that victim machine? Pivot. Are we looking to migrate ourselves to another process on the system? Migrate ourselves to another computer on that network? I explained the hard outer shell, soft inner shell analogy yesterday about computer networks in general. In general, it is hard to get into that network, hard, like an M&M can be. Hard outer shell, hard to access. But once I access that system, I crack the outer barrier somehow. Things are usually much softer for me to pivot to other machines inside that network because it's generally built on a system of trust. The computers, the users inside the network are trusted. They've been verified. They've gone through various access control. So we should trust each other. But if I can gain access to one of those machines masquerading as a user, since other systems may trust me, that looks like the user, it may be easier for me to carry out additional attacks. I can pivot to other machines from that. Or paralyze. So paralyze, when we look at the MITRE attack framework, paralyze was one of the impact/effects that was towards the right side of the screen whenever we looked at the different paradigms for carrying out cyber attacks from MITRE's attack framework. Paralyze, if I want to destroy the system and or computer machine, perhaps I want to cripple the individuals who are working on that network, perhaps we want to install ransomware. So I'm doing some sort of attack that paralyzes the computer, the network, and or the people until some action is provided. That's some sort of paralyzation attack. Okay? And then staying in. So what do I want to do once I am inside the network? How do I burrow in? Stealth and persistence, evade detection. How do I cover my tracks constantly? I also told us about the Chinese wartime philosopher Sun Tzu. And Sun Tzu, one of the many quotes that he is credited with saying is know thyself and know thy enemy. As the defender, you have to know your capabilities and you also have to know the capabilities of the attacker in order to shore up your defenses. As the gray hat who's analyzing your computer's environment and your computer networks, you have to know the network defender's capabilities. What generally are they going to use? What generally are they going to employ to protect their systems? And then know yourself. What capabilities do you have? What capabilities can you develop to defeat their protection mechanism? And then there's that cat and mouse game between attacking and exploiting. And lastly on the slide, I also mentioned the views, the way the attacker and the defender appear on the network as he wants to protect and defend the systems and also exploit it. I said yesterday that the attacker, many of the attacker's techniques and the defender's techniques to protect the same enclave of systems on network, they appear to be indistinguishable. As the attacker is trying to scan, find vulnerabilities, attack and exploit, exfiltrate, do whatever they want, and you, the defender, trying to scan your system, identify the vulnerabilities, remediate those, these look very, very, very similar, many times indistinguishable. So that is good. That means the steps that we are taking from the common split kitty attacker trying to find a way to break into a computer system, you doing that, finding those vulnerabilities and exploit, fixing them, that's going to enhance the security of the systems that you're monitoring overall. Now, we also mentioned that the slides we provided previously, your 5-step layer of attack, that is yesterday. That is many, many, many years ago that cyber attack methodology was created to exploit the web of trust that the internet was built on. Now, that direct attack is going to fail. That direct attack should fail 10 times out of 10 right now, assuming that the attacker is outside the network. What I mean by that is, I am here in the US, you all are all over the world. Some of you experts in this conference room are in Norway. If I were to try and scan your machine right now, whatever your IP address is, 10 dot something, 192 dot something, 169 dot something, I should not be able to directly reach your computer system from my house. One of the reasons is IP addresses with nabbing and padding that is used to masquerade IP addresses. I don't know if I'm sitting at a 192, you're at a 192, I try and scan 192.168, whatever your IP address is. One, that's not routable across TeamSnet. I'm not going to be able to reach you. Now, let's say I have a public-facing IP address for you. I should not be able to determine the systems inside your enterprise because there are many devices, software and hardware in between me and you that should prevent my barrages of scanning from determining like your actual network layout. And if that is possible, then somebody has a woefully configured network. Or I'm just found myself in a honeypot/honey network, and somebody else is monitoring what I'm doing, thinking I'm on a real machine, whereas I'm on a protected enclave, and you're learning my tactics, techniques, and procedure to better enhance your security of your systems. That's also a thing. But since I did mention that it is much harder to attack via the direct method from external to internal, if you're inside the network internally, this is fine. Like this does work and this still works and you will still find vulnerabilities time and time again. But if it is harder for the majority of attackers out there, the rhetorical question is why are there still so many attacks? Every day there are new attacks, new systems, new exploits that we find out, new 0 days, and new zero, or in fact, new X years attacks. X year attack, so we have 0 day, the number of days between disclosure of a vulnerability and remediation. How many days existed between that? If no days have existed, it's a brand new exploit to which there is no defense. We call that a 0 day, 1, 2, 3 day, right? But now when I say X year attacks, that means many of these exploits that you're reading online, they've been out there in the wild for many, many years. They've just not been defended. It's like, well, how is that possible? How does that keep coming? Well, because the cyber attack landscape has updated. And so this is the updated anatomy of that cyber attack. The updated anatomy of the cyber attack, this still has the direct method across the right side, in which you have your reconnaissance, you scan, penetrate the machine, gain access to the system, privilege escalation, pillage, plunder, pivot, paralyze, and then evade detection, maintaining access. That's still here across your direct method, but more so, cyber attackers have changed the paradigm. We have changed the way that we would go after exploiting computer systems. To begin with, I mentioned it yesterday. If I'm going to attack / exploit a system or a machine, a network, do that analysis on individuals, the first thing I do is say, okay, very good. You want me to exploit the systems to find vulnerabilities? All right, no problem. Who are the people? I'll start researching the people, because the people are the softer targets. Instead of spending a lot of time and stress and heartache reverse engineering software, figuring out where that buffer overflow is going to be, getting a way for that to run and gain access or gain a foothold to a machine, which we do, is just costly, because it takes a lot of time to develop each of these 0 days and exploits. Many times the users are softer. The users are easier. Let me give you my attack. Let me stage my exploits out there and allow you to carry me into your network, and then I can carry on the attack from that point. The really, really, really good attacks that last for many, many years, and roughly a long time to continue that foothold in that system. Oftentimes, when you look at the capability used, it's basic way to gain access, basic tools that already existed, modified slightly to persist inside the network for a prolonged amount of time. So that's why I will start with social engineering and figure out who can I exploit to bring me onto the network. And then the anatomy of the attack is also updated, in which staging of the exploits is a thing. What attackers have figured out long time ago is that the direct method is no longer going to get me in because of security. But instead, if only I can be patient, if only I can be slower, if only I can be more methodical, I will create my exploits, but I will stage them out in the wild, allow you to come to me. The watering hole that we spoke about. Perhaps you're visiting a website, or you're going to a common place to download software, whatever it is. My malware is there. Either I attack your browser from that standpoint, or I allow you to download something. I will give you something for free. Free games, free songs, free movie downloads, but you have to install my plugin. Free free software, whatever it is, but you have to install my my browser. You have to install a new browser bar on your browser. Not a problem, right? Well, what if that's my foothold to gain access to your system? So many ways that we can carry out this attack, but in general, we will rather stage our exploits just to be slower, but so you can bring me on, and now I can gain access to many, many, many more machines that are out there. Right, so that's our anatomy of the cyber attack. What we've started with, the direct and indirect method. Are there any questions with that? Any issues, any concerns, any thoughts of, well, we can do something better? Okay, no problem. Perhaps you have something to share. Is there anything? I'll wait a second in the chat. All right, not seeing anything. That's okay, no problem at all. Let's proceed. So here's the landscape of the systems that we have that we are working with. We are the individual performing the assessment with our black hat on. We have donned our black hat. Now, there are 3 main targets that we have worked with so far. our DVWA, our damn vulnerable web application. It's a vulnerable Unix machine with different web products that are created. It is very, very good for scanning. We do not do too much direct exploitation on like the actual systems that are set up. They are established in this DVWA. But if you Google, you can see how people exploit that. There is much more to learn. We are using it as a good way of scanning, developing our penetration tester's voice, figuring out, what does the gut tell us on how to exploit a machine? And then we can exploit further. We also reached out to hackon.org and did some scanning to see what that hackon.org looked like, what a website across the internet cloud provides, what information they provide. And then Metasploitable 3. Metasploitable 3 pre-built by Offensive Security. Awesome suite of tools. Or was it when I put 7? I'm trying to remember which one. Google will tell us the actual vendor who created the Metasploitable 3. But anyway, it was intentional, vulnerable systems and software out there such that we can learn from the attack. Learn from how to exploit systems, find a good test bed, a good training range to exploit systems, practice your tradecraft, and then deploy that as you want to protect your own personal systems. Each of these represents systems inside the internet cloud. Knowing how to exploit these ones that you have right now and the real world, a real world system out there, it's simply a variation on the thing. Very similar techniques, you just change the exploit from 1 to 5, this exploit to that exploit, but your steps are the same. That's why these are good, rich systems to perform our analysis. Then we went over steps on reconnaissance. I'll just wave my hands on this for a little bit. We didn't have any questions, so that's pretty good. Yesterday it was pretty calm and simple in everything that we are going over. So with our reconnaissance, we discovered ways that we would look through NS lookup. We did whois. We looked at some dig information about domains, about websites. We wanted to determine other IP addresses that are out there, other systems, which computers are responding on behalf of the domain. And then we're also starting to look at the users. Which users might be responsible for the domain? That's where we look at the whois information. Perhaps we can gain an idea of administrators, their personal contact information, or their organization's contact information. Many times whois can leak information that is useful as we develop the attack. As we develop the attack and we want to exploit further. Then from our reconnaissance, we moved over into scanning, in which we scanned many, wait a minute. Hang on, there we are. So in which we are looking to scan multiple aspects, multiple areas and types of scanning. That's what we started with yesterday. We went into Nmap, we did some basic scans, and then we moved over into the advanced scanning portion of Nmap. We will continue that today. We have a lot of scans to do, which are very nice. And one of the things you did see yesterday, and perhaps if you can refer back to the slide, but we mentioned the illusion versus reality of scanning and exploiting computer systems. On TV, it always hacking looks sexy. It looks fun. It's exciting. There are so many sounds and aspects, and gained access here. The screen changes colors, access denied, and there are sounds. Insert cyber noises here. Reality is not like that. Reality, we're doing some scans in the black and white, and we are looking line by line. We're looking at the text, developing our list of potential access points, potential attack vectors, entry points into that network. That's really where we start. Develop that list of what's going to be our potential area inside the network, launch an exploit at that system. Exploit fails in real life. You're like, crap. Review your notes. Do some more scans, do some more research, start Googling some more. Prepare your next exploit, launch your exploit. Wait for it. That one fails. Crap. Rinse and repeat. Try again. Launch your exploit. Yay, that won. You immediately stop and perform your happy dance at this point, because happy dance is mandatory every time you gain access to a system. And then you recompose yourself, you sit down, and you carry on the aspects of the attack. That's more likely what this hacking in real life looks like, you know? But we are going through the steps now. Okay. And I did not see any questions, no questions or hand raises in the chat that I can see. You know, chat looks clear, everything looks great, hunky dory. So let's continue. All right, let's go ahead and begin. Let's start our virtual machines. I am going to start my machines again from scratch, and then we will revert them back to their previous snapshot state. This is in case anything has changed. You don't have to restore yours to your previous snapshot. I will, because as we do scans, I change things, and I just want to make sure we're starting from a good known standpoint again. So here I am. Let's launch VirtualBox. So VirtualBox is up. DVWA, Metasploitable 3, and then our Kali Linux. DVWA, I will click on my tools here, snapshots. The previous snapshot for DVWA is this one. Right-click, restore. I do not want to restore from that. I do not want to create a new snapshot from this current point. Restore. Snapshot has been restored, and then I'm going to start. All right, and now that machine is starting, and it has just come to life a little. Let's do the same thing for our Metasploitable 3. Right click here, restore, and then start. And that guy's coming to life. All right, here we are. So hopefully once it has restored, this is what you are seeing here. Administrator and then the vagrant individual was logged in. I'm going to store him away. I'm going to remove this one again. And then our Kali snapshots. So we created a new snapshot yesterday. That was with a couple of tools that we updated. We did the binds 9, DNS utils, and pip, and then we installed one program. And from that point, we created another snapshot, so it would be easier when things are configured for us once again. Restore. That restores, and I'm going to start, and we'll wait for, right, here we go. Okay. And once the virtual machine has restarted, the virtual machine has been restored here. I am going to verify connectivity just to ensure things are great. So at least this is one of the interfaces on the virtual machine. One of the interfaces on the virtual machine, and then we also have, so this is how I can reach the internet. I'm natted with this virtual machine configuration. And then this is the internal network. So this internal network should allow us to ping and reach the other two virtual machines that we have established, DVWA, as well as our Metasploitable 3. So here we are. I'm going to ping our Metasploitable 3 machine, ping 169.254.8.81. Okay, so this Kali machine can reach our Metasploitable 3. Let's also verify our connectivity to our DVWA machine. Ping 169.254.8.83. Oops. Sorry, I need to retype. Oh, wait. Here we are. DVWA 83. And there we go. All right, so I can reach both of our systems. That is great. And just to remind us, please, use your knowledge wisely. We are going over your common methods that the attacker out there in the wild is going to employ to access your systems. They are constantly scanning all the time. They are scanning, exploiting, trying to see how to take over systems. So in this case, with the knowledge that you have, we just want to tell you that these scans are dangerous. These techniques are dangerous, but please only perform these scans on systems that you own, please. Use your knowledge for good and not for evil. Okay, now we stopped here. We did not get through our Nmap scripting engine, so we would like to continue in our advanced scanning techniques. And starting out with our advanced scanning techniques, we will begin with the Nmap scripting engine. Nmap scripting engine, NSE, this is wonderful. You actually started utilizing the Nmap scripting engine yesterday when you utilize the -A option in that Nmap scan, -A, which was your SV for version, your operating system, and then scanning scripts. Some scripts were used in order for Nmap to help determine what is the operating system, services, and additional information in that scan. So the scripting engine, what is it? Well, Nmap scripting engine helps us to implement additional scanning scripts to enrich details regarding the target system and or systems and the target networks that we're going after. There are hundreds of scripts. Yeah, actually there are hundreds of scripts because I use hundreds in general term. American, we like to have big cars and say everything is big and a lot. That's nice. But really, there are a lot of scripts out there, and we will go to the actual site and see some of them. And when you are finished with this workshop, please spend some time looking through the Nmap scripts. Spend time, look through them, see which ones work best in your environment, which ones work best in your enclave for your types of attack, because that's how we will learn and grow further. Because your mileage will vary depending on use. And so figure out what you like most and you add that to your cyber attack repertoire. So we use Nmap to conduct additional scans to better determine specific details regarding the target system. And then some of those details would include basic things like your HTTP header, DNS traversal. So DNS traversal, if I am trying to figure out like what potential subdomains exist or what URLs might exist under the single domain that I'm given, I can utilize one of the scans to try and tell us, hey, what do you see? There are other scans that we will do today that will help us do that directory traversal. But Nmap has some scripts built in to help us aid in this analysis. Virtual host walkthrough. So virtual host, that's really cool. I am specific and I'm keen to determine which virtual host may exist on the same network that the domain that we are scanning also resides in. It is efficient to have multiple domains or websites that are all running on the same IP address or on the same main server. It is efficient to utilize that server to like max capability because that's where we're getting the bang for the buck. So instead of only having one specific server for a single domain, what you'll see out there is there are thousands of domains that are still responding on the same server. So if I want to reach HackCon, if I want to reach another website, .no, another website that we may like to traverse, all these might be on the same IP address, on the same server. But the virtual host is used in order for that website, for the actual name server or the server hosting the website, the virtual host is used to know, oh, okay, you want specifically hackcon.org, here's the information based off of your request. But it's good to know because this also lets us have an idea of if I want to try and DOS an IP address, who might be impacted? Is it only the network owners that I'm going after? Hackcon.org is only on 91.148, .189.123.141. Is that the only domain that's housed on that server? If so, I might be a bit more cavalier based on what I'm authorized to do in the attack to test, hey, is DOS going to work? Can I try and have that system restart by sending it the wrong types of packets, to achieve various effects? But if that same domain is also living in the same server that like hundreds of other domains are, I might not do that DOS. I might not try and really take out that server because it's going to impact many other people. I remember, I think it was last year or the year before, it was very recent. There was a website that was compromised, and I think that website was housed in Sweden or something. But many other reputable sites also went down at the same time because someone attacked one domain, but that IP address, the system responding to servers and information, housed hundreds of other domains, so that attack took out many individuals. It's good to know this because this gives us an awareness of which attacks might we want to throw and which attacks might we hold off. And then the scripting engine, it does extend capabilities in which there are specific actions that are carried out, and utilizing the Nmap scripting engine, there is a language that this is written in. You, the SME, the expert, the subject matter expert, you are actually able to write scripts. You can write code and now import that into Nmap, and Nmap will be able to use that. So Nmap is a really great, versatile, robust, ubiquitous scanning framework out there that allows it to be extensible. You can extend it as needed. And there are additionally categories of attacks, and we will go over these today. Like we're about to get started, jumping into it. There's brute force and authentication types of attacks, which are amalgamation of different specific scripts to allow you to allow Nmap to automate brute forcing into vulnerable websites or so. It will try many usernames, common usernames and passwords. It will try and log in for you. And then if it is able to do so, it will report back and say, okay, as Nmap was doing the scans, username and password was successful to authenticate into the system. That just saves you a lot of time because now you have a credentialed way to access a computer system or website, whatever it is, and then you can carry on your attack further from that standpoint. Enhanced network discovery. So it will also automate doing things like whois, traceroute, SMB, file share discovery, different information, enumeration with like NetBIOS and things like that. So Nmap the scripting engine will help to automate those. Vulnerability detection. It performs vulnerability scans, and we will have vulnerability scans either at the end of today. These scans should be included in your share drive right now, or if we don't get to that today, for sure it is tomorrow, that we are scanning all of the machines, we're doing vulnerability analysis, we're taking that information, and then we're going to throw exploits based off of what we learned. So Nmap is good to help us do some vulnerability scanning. So it's, in essence, it's like sometimes instead of having to spend hundreds of thousands of dollars, which hundreds of thousands of dollars is a thing, it is doable to have a really sexy exploitation framework. Sometimes this might be good enough to figure out initial vulnerabilities that might exist, and then we can exploit and research further to see how to gain access to that system. Malware detection, it can determine based off of how the system is responding, might it be compromised with specific types of malware out there, like Configure, Dooku, Flame, based on how the system might respond a particular open port that is specifically indicative of infection by a specific malware family. Nmap might be able to report and say that system is compromised with Configure. So it's pretty interesting. Some of the scans that we can perform, and it will let us know that. Or vulnerability exploitation. So again, if that system might be compromised, it might even try and exploit for you. Basic exploits, things that are well known, but it might say, I see this vulnerability, you have enabled the vulnerability type of scan, let me try and exploit. It might be successful, and then it can report back and say exploit, or like this system is really susceptible to these types of exploit, and then we can pivot into Metasploit and carry on from there. All right, so the Nmap scripting engine itself is here. At the bottom, this is the website that we can go to view that. And so let's pull that up real quick. Here we are. Gotta find my browser. Okay, so if I go to the nmap.org, this is where Nmap is housed, information about it. We're looking at the different scripts that can be executed. We will definitely go in much further detail on how they execute each of these individual scripts today. But in general, if you are curious, when you go to this site, let me put the website here. When you look at the different exploits or scanning scripts, here, let me just put on DNS Brute, for instance. DNS Brute, I want to see what it does. So this is a specific script from the Nmap scripting engine. It says it attempts to enumerate DNS host names by brute force guessing common subdomains out there. DNS Brute arguments, and Brute will also try DNS and SRV records to determine which other domains might exist, what other subdomains might we be able to determine. It will also look at records. So your A and your quad A records for an address for a specific domain. So it's going to try and understand those based on the scripts, the way the script has been programmed, and then it will report that information back to us. The scripts also take different arguments in case you want to establish specific arguments, like you have a host list you wanted to scan, for instance, then you can use the -arg and say like, hey, I have specific arguments, and then in particular, I want to specify the DNS root.host list, a list of systems I want to exploit, or I want to scan actually. You give it the path to that list to be utilized, and then it'll go off and carry on the attack. And it also tells you that, by the way, this is the default list. So if you do not specify DNS root.host list, then this is the default list that would be utilized. The domain that you want to go after, if no specific host is specified. And then here are some examples. So above, we read the script name, the summary about the script. These are specific arguments that we may desire to change in the script. And then here, always so lovely, here's some usage. Here's examples of how to use that script. So we start with the usage, nmap -- script. And then the name of the script that we want to run from the Nmap scripting engine. And then the domain that we're going after. Now, if we want to add an additional argument, this is what I was saying with the -args. So the script, Nmap script, DNS brutes, we can now specify and say, I want to give you specific arguments here. Okay. So whenever you go to this, whatever is your script arguments, this is how we say, these are the arguments I want to use. -- script args, and then I can enter in the arguments separated by a comma. So in this case, we're saying DNS brute domain, the domain that we're going after is foo.com. We want to establish more threads to do this execution in parallel, so hopefully we can reduce the time that we have to wait for these scans to come back. Excuse me. Okay, etc. Just different arguments that we may want to specify. And then this is an example of what the output would look like. So this is a really nice script, by the way. Now, whenever we are doing our analysis, we are starting to analyze, just in this example, foo.com, right? DNS brute tells us different subdomains from that single domain that we've provided. And then an example might be www.foo.com. This is the IP address of that system. And then other subdomains. So mail.foo.com is at this IP address. Blog.foo.com is at this IP address. So it's just using a script, a list of potential names to go after. And now it tries to connect to each of those, and then it looks at the distant end server's response. Based on the response, it now asks the list and says, oh, this is good, or this is not good. The things that are good, it reports the results back to us. Let me take that away, right? So that's some of these scripts that we can see. Oh, let me show you some other things. Let me go back. So our index, this has all of the scripts together, and you can read each one of these. And I think 2 years ago, it was about a year and a half ago, I went through each one of these one by one to exploit it against Metasploitable DVWA to figure out, okay, which scripts are good. Not all of them work well, not all of them work anymore. Some of them are really, really old. It just depends what you need. Also remember that this is free. When I mentioned yesterday, free, WYSIWYG. What you see is what you get. This is what you get to use, but figure out what you like about it. Please research further. I ended yesterday with the expertise, the expertise in being a cyber attacker, defender. The expertise is built over time from practical experience and group and self-study. So you, the experts out there, please read through these things and see what you like, explore and figure out and say, I like this. I want to add this to my toolbox. That's really the best case from this workshop. Now, there are many scripts here, like over 600, 604 scripts, utilizing 139 different libraries. There are also categories, and I'll hit this again in the slides, but since we're here, I'll only hit it once. In our categories, this amalgamates multiple scripts together. So instead of having to piece together every single script one by one, you might just say, okay, let me use a category. So for instance, if I go to, let's do Brute. If I go to Brute, I'm looking at a specific Nmap scripting engine category of scripts, multiple scripts together in a single category. Now, all of these scripts are executed, and all I have to do is tell Nmap, just use the auth script, the authentication script, which is different types of authentication mechanisms to attempt to log into a target system or something. So that's your auth script. Your broadcast scripts, looking at how systems broadcast across the network. Did I mention Brute? Were we? Oh yeah, we are in Brute. Yeah, so brute force, try and gain access to a system. Default, different scripts that would run on default, like whenever you press the -A, these are some of your default scripts that it will give you information about the target system. Let's see another one. Safe, the safe scripts, these are less invasive scripts that if you run it, we know, or at least at the time when these scripts were created, we knew that it would not compromise, it would not retard, delay, destroy, harm services running on the victim machine. So that's why this is mentioned as safe. There are other types of exploits, like your exploit category or your brute force category, that can be less safe, is more dangerous. Things can actually go offline based on how Nmap is trying to barrage the system. So it's good to know that safe, I can utilize these to start out with without having a significant concern that I might take the distant end offline. Okay, that's enough about the Nmap scripts for now. As we research and as we learn more, you will figure out what you like and add it to your toolbox. Okay. All right. So let's do one or two. Let's do a few of these. So that's a good question. So Odd, I know I'm butchering your name. I'm not saying your name properly, but as Odd mentioned, how do you know if your scripts are up to date? You can actually run the Nmap script update, and I'll get the script for you. So one of the things that should update is on your system when you utilize the apt-get updates or the apt update, apt upgrade. Part of the upgrade, on the different services on your machine, for sure it updates your Metasploit database of exploits that are released out there, and also your Nmap scripting engine is updated from that point. But you can also give a specific directive to update your Nmap scripts as well, and I'll provide that update script, after our break. Oh, there it is right there. So it's actually in the chat. Thank you for that. I'm like, okay, hey, you just saved me some time. See, y'all are experts out there. Yeah, so if you use nmap --script update db, then that is the command that can update your database for you. All right, so here we are. Let me see. Yeah, so here we are. Let's go ahead and start running some of these scripts and just be familiar and comfortable with executing scripts. All right, let's bring on my Kali machine here. Here we are. So as I am logged in, good. The share, so we added a share yesterday. I'm going to go back into that share and just store my values there. I also mentioned that I like to be very verbose whenever we do scans. I verbose and I want to store and save everything that we are executing. I want to know everything that is saved and revealed, because information available today might not be there tomorrow. But we can refer back to this, or we can automate all these scans, put it into an analysis engine, or give it to another partner to, hey, I'll do the scans, you do the analysis, so we can pivot into the exploitation faster. I just like to save a lot. And so that's why our scripts here, the specific commands are used to save information off and to our site that we can analyze later. We added a share yesterday, so I want to go into that. Oh, let me put my share back. So the share, to do a share, if I go into machine settings, shared folder, I'm just adding my share back. Machine settings, shared folder, machine folders. I click this plus here. Folder path, I will specify the path that I would like to share. And here I am, I'm going to use share to. Just whatever folder you would like, you use whatever that's best for you. I will specify auto mount, make permanent until tomorrow when we revert. Or you can do a snapshot at this point where it's already shared and then you don't have to do anything. We're good here. All right, okay. File system. So here we are. Now let me open a terminal from this point. Now, also one last thing to mention before we execute some of these scripts and scans is that these scripts, scans, they take a long time. Some may take a long, like DOS. If you execute DOS, you're gonna be waiting for a while, because it's also trying to determine, can I DOS a system, but that takes a while. Whenever we put categories together and we're executing many scripts together, it is going to take time. So referring back to the illusion versus the reality, you hit a scan and then you wait for a while for that scan to complete, and then you look at it, you're like, oh crap, fat finger something, need to start over. You hit the scan and then you wait for another while. Right? While you're waiting, finally the scan is done, then you analyze those scans. Something else you do is, I know that there are multiple scans to do, so I'll just initiate each scan, let those fire, leave, go and have a coffee. Come back when I'm done with my coffee. Many of my scans may have completed at the time, and then I can begin the analysis. Bottom line, things take time. It's not fast. It's not like how they show in the movies, right? Okay, so the first command that we'll do, let me copy this. Let's go ahead and we'll start out easy. We'll start out slow. I'll put the command in the chat there. So let's do nmap and -p. And I'm using the -p flag to be specific. So 443, 80, 443, and 8080, just specific ports that I want, since I'm looking at the HTTP flag. Later on, for a Metasploitable, you can use every one of the ports that appears to have like an HTTP, right? Nmap is like, I don't know, is there an HTTP client here? Use that in the scan. Right? Now, I would also be specific when I'm doing things specific to HTTP. At least I would want to specify the ports, because it's going to save time. It will save us a lot of time without having to scan a lot of the non-ephemeral ports, from port 1 to 1024, and then many of the common ports. I don't always have to wait that long when I'm only looking at websites. HTTP can only scan those specific ports. -- scripts. This is now where we're instructing Nmap to utilize the Nmap scripting engine. And the specific script that we want to execute is title, HTTP title. Again, we're just starting off easy. Now the system we want to go after, 169.254.8.83, our DVWA system. And I'm just going to use the alt caret, up right to a file. And we're going to name this nmap and map underscore HTTP underscore title. So I'm doing nmap HTTP script, and the system that I'm going after is dbwa.txt. Very fast and easy. That one is done. I can view what we just saved. If I do a cat on nmap, we can view the results. So port 80 was open on the system that we went after. The HTTP title, that's the specific script that we executed. Damn vulnerable Linux login is what was returned. So that's the header that was returned, the HTTP and title. We tested resource, and now the actual page that we looked at, and that was able to determine that to be login.php. 443, and said it is open. 443 encrypted, so it did not get any information in that scan. Port 8080 was closed. HTTP, but it was closed. It did not get anything further in. So that's one of our scripts that we can execute. Now let's do the same thing again. On our Metasploitable 3, our IP address there is 81. Then I want to change this here instead of DVWA to Metasploitable. Metasploitable 3, execute. Okay, now I'm just going to do a cat off of that. So I executed the commands. Let me put that here in the chat. Okay, that one as well is in the chat. So we're saying go after this machine, save the outputs out to a file. So here on port 80, it says site doesn't have a title. No title was returned on that site. 443 closed. Port 8080 was open. Okay. And then the title that was presented back to us was Glassfish. Glassfish server, and the server is running. That's the title that was presented to us. And then we can do many more scripts and many more scans from there. So this is just the beginning, just getting our feet wet. We're just about at the top of the hour. So let's go ahead and take a 10-minute break. And please step, walk around, and we'll come back refreshed and ready to execute additional scripts. So we'll see you in 10 minutes. All right, welcome back. I'd like to verify a few things since we're in virtual land. One, can you hear me okay? Am I coming through? All right, thank you very much. And two, screen. Am I sharing the screen? Can you still see the screen? Excellent. Okay, thank you very much for the comments. All right, perfect. Thank you. All right, let's continue. So earlier, let me get this back. Earlier, we just ran the current two scripts here. And now for my nmap scripting engine, we're doing the HTTP title. Okay, so we're starting out easy. And then we're looking at the responses. Here, this is one of the response at this side. This is another one that we did get a Glassfish server. The server is running, just responses from the distant end. One more thing to recognize, because as I said, we're starting out easy. Whenever we start to get towards categories, and the categories execute many scripts together, and those scripts take a while to execute and give us information back. Recognize how to determine the input specific to a script. And so that's here, you'd use this like a bar sign, like a bar, and then this is the specific script that's being run, information about it, all the way until this closing bar. So this closing bar, it's information for this specific port, but also this title told us information for this port. So all of this refers to the HTTP title for this port here. So just how to see it. The same thing over here on this side. You see this closing, and this is the where it's enveloped in the actual title that we're going to talk about. So site doesn't have a title that matches on the port 80. And then for port 8080, whenever we, again, put many of these things together, it will start to look different. But we're just trying to say, how do you recognize this? Okay, let's do some more. So let's look at the HTTP supported methods function. So the supported methods, this finds out what options are supported by the HTTP server. So it lists potentially risky methods. It tests things like, hey, trace is allowed, or this flag is allowed that probably should not be. So it helps to give an indication of what are our server potentially giving out that the attacker may use to exploit or to compromise the system. Now messages, any messages other than 501, 405 suggest that the method might be out of the range if it's not within the 400 to 601. And then if the response fails, it will update its details back to us from the script. Now, potentially risky methods are anything except things from your get, your head, your post, your options, right? It could report things that are risky. It might not always be. We just have to be on our guard to see what it's going to report and then understand that. Is that truly risky or is it not? Right, so this is the command that we will execute. And again, more information that we're talking about. So this one is the methods. So if we go to the method, I think it's the methods down here at the bottom, it should give you further details. Let's go ahead and execute this one. Yep. Here we are. So the command that we're going to execute, it is about to be, it's in the chat. So nmap-p 80.443.8.0.0, just so we did before, script HTTP methods, and then the IP address 169.254.8.h3. Out writes to a new file, nmap HTTP head methods, ddwa.txt. So the IP address that we are using .830, that is correct. So let's go ahead and execute. Okay. Oh, okay, sorry, I'm seeing a comment for Cynthia. The screen is black. Okay. Oh yeah. You try and rejoin. I'm sorry if the screen is black, but if everyone else is able to see it, please let me know if anyone else is having an issue, and I can stop the share and re-enable it just in case. Okay. All right. So we just executed this attack. So let's go ahead and view what we executed. So that's cat HTTP methods. Oh, I spelled it wrong, but that's fine. Nmap, not NAMP. That's the American pronunciation of NMAP. All right, so from the methods, HTTP methods that we're running, again, port 80, this is the specific script that's giving us information on this port 80. Supported methods, get, head, post, options. And I'm not seeing any other like warning signs or such, so that's fine, that's good. And again, I'm just getting us comfortable with how do we utilize these scripts, because there are a lot of scripts that I'm saying, please spend time to review and see what works under your environment. Hey, SSL retrieval. So let's go ahead and retrieve information about that SSL certificate so we can view, we can see its begin and end time, we can determine if there are weak ciphers that are using in that SSL, and then if so, sometimes we can see that error and say, I need to update my SSL certificate. Or other instances, someone is trying to come to your website, and your website, even though you put a good certificate out there, says website is insecure, or the script cannot be verified. Like, what is going on? What's going on with the script? Download the actual certificate that others are using and then see if you can figure out like, oh, maybe this script is outdated, it's expired, so we know to adjust accordingly. Okay, here I'd like us to introduce the -v, the verbose, because as it's scanning, I wanted to give us more information. We don't necessarily have to save this out to a file. Otherwise, we could use the append and give it a file name. All right. I'm checking the chat. Cindy, if you've come back, I'm not seeing. Okay, let's go. Let's see. Okay, executing this command and map -p. So since it's SSL, I only want to look at port 443 and not still have nmap scan a lot of other ports, and I'm waiting for information that's just not applicable. I don't expect to see an SSL certificate presented on like a telnet client if there's a telnet listening. That's why we can be specific on the actual port that we want to get. Okay, yeah, thank you. Thanks for that. All right, here. So nmap -p 443 -p 443 -sv for versioning. We definitely want versioning information. -v for verbose. I'd like to see some additional information presented to us as the scan progresses. Scripts. And then SSL cert. So SSL cert, that's the script that we're using, and now we're going after, we're just downloading the script from hackon.org. Okay. So as it scans, I can press enter to see its current status. Okay, and now it is finished. So these are the results that we're seeing from the script that we executed, SSL cert. We're seeing all of this information is what it returned from port 443. This is the beginning. You see all these lines all the way down until right here. You see this is the ending, this little, yeah, right there. So that's the ending of all this information that pertains to this port. And then this port is utilizing this specific script. Again, I mentioned, because once we use the categories, there is a lot of scripts that run, and it's like, well, what script are we actually using? That's why we're trying to focus on, well, here's how to read that information. And it will become crystal clear in a few moments. All right, so for our HTTP server header, our SSL certificate, so here's some good version stuff that is applied, responded back to us. Is Apache running 2.4.10. This is the certificate that was responded back to us. Hackon.org, alternative name is provided here. The public key is an RSA public key, 248-bit RSA. The signature algorithm, SHA-256. And then here are the dates. So it's not valid before, newer certificate is not valid before December of 2020, because the newer certificate has been deployed. And then it's not valid after this year, after this March. So a new certificate will be employed and adopted at that point, for fresh security. And then here's the actual base 64 encoded message of that certificate. So I can take this base 64 decoded. Now I can use this as my public key to communicate securely to the distant end. All right. Now, say there are multiple scripts that we want to execute that kind of might all start with a specific keyword. Well, we are able to do that. For instance, the HTTP scanning. So on the nmap script, the nmap website, you can chain multiple commands to execute all scripts starting with HTTP. So that will include scripts like HTTP brute, HTTP, your cross-site request forgery, types of scanning attacks, your HTTP enumeration, form fuzzer, SQL injection, etc., etc., etc. There are so many scripts there, but let's say I want to do everything on just HTTP in general. Well, you can do that. Here, as we add in our normal script, in this case, we are adding in the -pn, which is saying, do not ping the system, assume the system is live, and then continue on with this scans from there. -sv, we're comfortable with before, versioning. -b, be verbose, allow me to see the information and that's provided or stored into the file. Script, HTTP star. So HTTP star, this is where we can get information back. And then the IP address that we're going after, and then we're writing to a file here, and we'll name it nmap http star dvwa.txt. Let me put that into the chat here. In the chat. So let's go ahead and execute. And then again, whenever you go to the nmap site, so just nmap.org here, there are so many HTTPs, and we're executing all of these without having to type them in individually. Okay, so here we are. Let's go ahead and nmap -pn, assume the target is live, -sv, versioning -v verbose, and then script, HTTP star. Now, the IP address that we're going after, 169.254.8.83, 8.83, save it out to a file. nmap http star dvwa.txt. So I'm going to save this now, or this script is starting to run. So remember, these scripts, these things take some time. Now, as that is going, let's do this. Let's see what this looks like. Let's go into that same save folder, or wherever you're saving to. Mine is my share too. Yeah, we'll just continue like this. All right, so I'm going to open in, no, I thought of something different. Let's go to File, New tab. All right, so this is the scan that's going on right now. All right, if I press enter, I'm not going to see anything at this point because everything is being appended, to this file here at the directory right here for me. So if I come back here, I can do a tail. If I do a tail -f, I can see the last entries as it's being put into this file in real time. Yeah, that's one thing. The next, I will change the output into using the -OA, -O, and then the big letter A. And this allows us to do outputs, all outputs. So recall, we can do the nmap format, greppable format, normal, greppable, and then XML. So all of these templates can be written at the same time while nmap is doing the scans, and then I can interact with nmap at the same time without having to use two different terminals to view the results that's going into this file. Okay. Anyway, I'm going to do tail -f, nmap, and then http star. Okay, so now I'm just tail -f, tail -f, nmap, http star. And this will be wwa.txt. Okay, so that's the command that I typed. Oops, that's not start, it's star. Yeah, I got this. Okay. I believe that's right in the chat. And now, as I go back, I can press enter a few times where the scan is going on. And then if I come back into the actual file, as I'm reading the file, I can see its status. So it's telling us that so far it's about 32% complete. And then nmap tries to estimate its completion time right here. So it is 8:34 a.m. It's 7:24 a.m. This virtual machine, the clock is an hour ahead for me. But now based off of this time, it says around 8:30, this current clock time is when this script is estimated to be done. Do not take that time as gospel. because that time just continues to update as the script, takes a while. So some scripts may take 30 minutes. Some scripts may take an hour. Other scripts, you just say, all right, that's it. I'm kind of done waiting. And that estimated completion time might be, passed or just updates as you go along. But it tries to be kind and gives you an idea of status. I'm just going to press enter a few more times. I'll refer back and then see that I'm still at 53% complete. So as I mentioned before, you initiate these scripts and you just let it run. Send many scripts, many different categories. We'll get into categories soon, and then leave. Like go have a coffee or something, or you continue to do your research on the target that you're performing your assessment against, and then eventually when this is done, it will come back, and then we can analyze the results. I have completed the scan results for you in the share. And try to let me make sure this is the one. Yes, yeah, and it's wait. Yes, okay, here it is. All right, so in your share, I'm just going to bring this over. So again, while it's scanning on your computer, that's fine. You can allow it to scan for some time. Right. In the share that you have, the share that you can download, if I go back, it should say you should have the scans.zip that is uploaded on our Google share. Inside the advanced scanning, right? I put a lot of scans for us, so we can analyze these things, so we save time instead of waiting while this thing is only 33%. Okay, in Nmap DVWA, that's our DVWA types of scans. Okay, if we go to Nmap HTTP star, if I open this text file opens over there. Let's bring it over here. All right. All right, so this is the results of the scan, or at least it is some result of the scan. Based on time, intensity, it's not all. You don't always get the exact same results, but this is going to be good enough. So let's go ahead and look at the results. Let's see how we would determine what we have. So this is the same command that we executed. This is the IP address that we're going after, scanning. 5 services. And as I mentioned, when we, the real life hacking, we look at stuff line by line to figure out what we like, what is useful. And there are some status here, because when I originally scanned this and I was testing like, what's the status? That's what you're seeing here. 34%, 37%, it takes some time. Yeah, you can even look at the timing. This is like the first second when this started, or the first minute. I think that's the first minute. This is the first minute when the scan started. It was at 34%. And here, this is the 21st minute when the scan was running. It was at 37%. Or actually, this is its estimation of how much time is remaining. I'm sorry about that. But anyway, just some of the scans and status here. And at the end, it says scan complete, and it gives you a time. Yeah, there it is. Okay, so right here, this is how many seconds it took. This scan completed 13:42, whenever that time was. But this is how many seconds. So 5,000 seconds now. Public math. I think that's over 10 minutes or so. I think so, if not longer. How long is that? Out of curiosity. So that's 5,421 seconds divided by 90 minutes. If my math is correct. I think that scan took us 90 minutes to complete. Yeah, thank you. Thanks, public math. Thank you. Yeah, so about an hour and 30 minutes for this specific scan to complete. Okay, so with that, let's go ahead and return and wait here for an hour and a half. for this one scan to complete, and then we'll be right back. I'm just joking. So let's continue. We're saving some time, and let's see what the results are. So hopefully you have this, you have this file that you've downloaded, and let's go through it line by line to see what is useful. Okay. So as we're scanning for different ports, 21 and 22, these are open. We saw these results yesterday. Port 80 is open. I love the banner with port 80 that we can see. It's Apache, HTTP, daemon, version, most likely version 2.2.14. Again, we really need the versions because this gives us an idea of, I wonder what exploits exist for that specific version. All right, now let's look at the specific scripts. Remember earlier, I was like, this is how you recognize a specific script on a specific port. That's why. Because if you zoom out, there's just a lot of text here. And so it's like, well, what script is actually executing, giving us information? That's how you read it. All right. So we are. So one particular script under HTTP star, HTTP Apache server status. So we can tell the server provided its status to us. The server is really verbose. It's nice when the server is saying, hey, I'm good. Here is my banner. Please come exploit me if you're interested. Server version, as we saw before, the server was built November 10, 2009. The uptime at the time of the scan, the server was up for 4 hours, 51 minutes. Virtual host, if it was able to determine virtual host, it would provide that, it would provide those details right here. Like there are other domains housed on this same system that I'm looking at. If you give me 1 second, let me see if we did this on HackCon. Looks like it's like we didn't do that specific scan against hackon.org. But if there was another site that it did run and it could deduce in different domains that are there, it would provide you a nice, healthy list under virtual hosts. Again, I really like looking at virtual hosts also. All right, authentication finder. So it's trying the spider. It's looking at different locations, different depths. So also recall when we spoke about different arguments from the scripting engine, you can change the arguments here. You can add additional script depths and stuff, 10, 15, just continue going recursively until hopefully you get more valid / accurate results. So at least as this authentication auth finder is looking for any authentication web pages, right? I found a couple. I found one just at the base of the domain, or the IP address in this case, 169.254.8.h3, which is our DVWA on port 80. Again, we're in port 80 here. So at this base site, I found a form that people can enter in information. And then also at this base, I found login.php that people can enter information into. And so we actually have not seen what this looks like yet. Let's go ahead and take a look. Here I am. Let's open Firefox. Okay. Oh, very good. Very good notes there. Yeah, so debug, well, that's nice. That's really interesting. So as I said, I learned from the experts as well. So debug can be initiated on the terminal while the scan is going on by pressing D. So will it work in this one? Yeah, so in the other side, we can add in the -D information. And so, it looks like it can give us some debug stuff. Oh, very good, very good. Thank you, that's good to know. All right, I'm clicking all over the place. Let's return back to our HackCon. So the site that we actually are looking at is 169.254.8.h3. So this is the login page for DVWA, and you can actually log in to this. You can log into the system, the credentials, admin, and the password should be password. Admin and password I want to save. I always say no, but in this case, yeah, sure, why not? I'm going to revert the VM after this anyway. Okay, so this is what we're seeing on the system. If we go back to our text file, it told us that there was a login page at the base of the domain. That's nice, lots of text over there. And then here, there's also a login.php. As part of our analysis, we can, oh yeah, different system. If we go into HTTP ::, 169.254.8.83, and then those login.php, yeah, that's where we were before. So this brings up the specific login page. Okay, and let me see, login.php, yeah. So that's also useful when you might not necessarily know the the layout of that domain that you're scanning. So this gives you information about that, the actual system. Additionally, sometimes admins, when you're writing new pages and such, you might have a debug page that's out there, especially one that might be a backdoor to quickly log into the system, or it has information that's hard-coded, so I can get into the back end of the system and do whatever else I need to do. Admins are human, and sometimes they may leave files out there that in our analysis we can see, oh, here's a new page that's interesting. Let me see what I can find from that site. HTTP brute, it requires additional arguments and such. We didn't add those in at this time, but if we wanted, we can go back and do HTTP brute, add in a specific location that we wanted to do scans, and then we can continue from that point. Right. Chronos, we're looking at different timing. So average, time, etc. Don't really need that one just yet. Okay, comments displayer. So comments displayers, it's cool to look at the comments of a page, because again, you never know what you're going to find. Sometimes you will see hard-coded passwords that's in the comments, or other details, a username, some reference, maybe a site that has been hard-coded, or some comments from the previous administrator. Looking at the comments might give us more information about the layout of the site. And you just don't know, you have to read everything line by line. Right? So this is the line number where a comment was found and then that specific login page. Okay. Images, line number 61, and that's the end of the comments section in this page. Cookie, the cookie that was presented, PHP SESSID, HTTP only flag was not set. So it's giving you some indication of, was the HTTP only flag set in this cookie when it responded back? It's like, nope, not in this case. Okay, so this is your cross-site request forgery, and this is determining, might the site be susceptible to cross-site request forgery attacks, cross-site scripting types of attacks. And it says, hey, it is possible because of the form entry. This is the form action, the form that is named. So we might be able to execute cross-site request forgery attacks against this site. Okay, this is the date that responded back, January 30, at the time of the scan. So this is good. This is the good one. HTTP enum. So HTTP enum, this is where it is attempting to enumerate or do directory traversal on the site. So I also like, I like many things whenever we talk about cyber. But here, as we're performing this enumeration, we're seeing, what is the directory traversal from the current word list that you have in that? And Nmap is returning this back to us. So from the base site, the 169.254.8.83 / there exists login.php, there exists robots.txt. Remember we went through robots yesterday with the wget. There's a PHP admin. So this is like, whoa, there's a PHP admin. I tell you, in this one of the other systems that I have running in the back, many times I see people trying to log into that thing and say, hey, PHP admin, do you have PHP admin out there? Because that could be a backend to get into the database and get into the configuration of that system. PHP admin is a good wrapper to administer multiple areas of a website, but it could also be an attack vector. So that PHP admin, let's look at that. So PHP my admin. Can I type it in that? Yeah, there you go. And so again, as we do, sorry. Okay, so as we do analysis, we did not know that this existed before, but from that script scan, we're like, oh, PHP admin is there? Oh, it's going to be a good analysis of this one. So now we can see, well, what does PHP admin provide to us? Like SQL, there are times you can reset the database, like look at this. So again, it's poorly configured, but sometimes in the wild, this is what you find. It's harder to exploit machines via a 0-day or a specific exploit, but it is easier to exploit the user and then also to take advantage of a misconfiguration from the user, which might give you access to the system and or the information that is out there. All right, so here's the guest book, and there are two tables. There's a user table, there's a guest book table. In the database here, if I click on this, just this expansion here, I can see some of the information that is in that table. And again, this should not be divulged, but we found something from our scan, and then we search further. This is how you attack and defend things. And we can use PHP admin as we found to do that. So we can add a user. So that's a thing. If I wanted to add a new user now, I could modify the table, add a user. We just don't have time to explore the DBWA in as much detail as I wish we could. But one instance is you specifically add a user at this point, you give it the right hash, and then you log in. So you gave yourself credentialed access to a machine or to something that generally should not have been out there, but because of a poor security configuration, this can give you access there. So this is much easier than writing a vulnerability, than writing an exploit. We try these methods first, and we learn this simply by running our Nmap script engine, and then we're reading line by line to see what we can find. All right, so it's pretty exciting, these things that we can uncover. One second, please. All right, just writing down the notes that, hey, this is pretty useful. This is pretty good. So as we go through these, we take notes of interesting things to come back. This is not just an exercise of looking at stuff. We take notes, attacking notes. Okay, there's a README. That's nice. It says interesting. A README file. So there's a README file out there. All right. Okay. I like seeing these types of things. So there's a config. There's a config file, and as Nmap is reporting, it's like, hey, potentially interesting listing with directory listing, directory traversal, like an index of. This is oh my, really? I found an index of? Well, what might we be able to download from that potential site? Like, I get excited. So that's one of the things. Like, oh, let's take a look at this. So config. Let's see what that config file looks like. So already we're happy here. We're already doing some of those happy dances. Let's take a look at config, and then we'll go into docs. So the most important thing, even though this is small, it's basic, contrived, but index of, like, goodness gracious, if you can find an index of from a site that you're exploring, like, immediately I pivot and I download everything from that index. I was like, oh, I'm taking it. It doesn't matter what it is. Memory is relatively cheap. I'm downloading everything, and then I'll start to analyze it little by little. Because you never know. You can find password files. You can find, checkbooks, admin tables. So many things can be discovered from an index of, like an index of an Apache. Awesome. Docs. Yeah, so docs is not providing anything too useful, but it's still there. And when we're doing this vulnerability assessment, this is when we write down notes and say, you have an exposed index of to the world, or at least something we're able to see, like immediately shut that down, stop that, because an attacker could use that to, gain information that they should not have had access to, unless it is part of the organization to have an index of. But that is always a direct, like, I know there's an index of, I got it. It's there intentionally. Otherwise, you got to shut that down. Okay, were we in docs? I think we're in docs. Yeah, so this one is docs. Let's also look at the other index of that's available, external. So in external, there's a PHP ID. I'm just going to walk through that directory, and now we're starting to see additional information here. So there's docs, like just nice pages and information that's being returned to us from this website, okay, external. Examples, let's see, library, test file, converge, IDs. You see, like there's just lots of interesting things out there. It's like, okay, did you all need to put this out there? Are you sure you want to have your internal and external files available? Icons. So lots of icons that are present. Maybe this is useful. Sometimes this won't be icons. It could be media. It could be pictures. Just whatever. Server info. Right. This is also returned to us from HTTP enum. So that is a good script to keep in your back pocket. And now Apache server information. This gives us a lot. Like you don't get this in the real world, but if you did, either the system administrators are inept, like they're woefully underprepared, and that's sad. Let's try and help them, or you're in a honeypot. Like they intentionally want you to see this. So you just want to be careful that you should not have this much wealth of information, but it's good just in case. All right, so again, we're seeing the Apache server version is built, the time that it was built, compiled, maybe some start times, startup hooks, and actual code that we're just analyzing, seeing it. There's a server info folder, and then there's also a server status. That's what it is. Yep. So this is the server status. The Apache server is like, all right, here's my status. And these things should be locked down. It's good Apache provides it, but lock it down only to your internal network specific individuals if you really think you needed to produce this information. Okay. So current time, restarts time on that server itself. That's what it thinks because we just restarted it. All right. Okay. So that's about that. All right. So that's what we're seeing here from, where's the HTTP? All right. Thank you. Yeah. So if you take a note on the scripts that you do like for HTTP, this is a good one. I would keep that one. I like that script. All right, let's take a look at some other things. Look at this. Another good one. HTTP form brute, right? So as we're analyzing many scripts together, HTTP form brute, it is trying to brute force attack forms, information that it can discover in a specific form for entry. Now it said in its list, and you can configure the list, you can give it additional names and passwords. It found for you without you knowing the password. Now, again, it's from a list on the Nmap. But from the list that it's using, username and password, I tried this combination. It's like, valid credentials. And by the way, the statistics that it performed, 3,552 guesses in 600 seconds. So what is that, 5 minutes? That's about 5 minutes or so, something like that. Public math, I'm not sure. But if you're looking for some credential, this is one of those that now you have a valid way of logging in to a system. Sun Tzu, know thyself, know thy enemy. It is possible that as a way of having a honey token, you could actually establish specific usernames that no one else should ever know about and a password, okay, common password or maybe a harder password. And then you can audit when people log in. So now if someone logs in under an audit account, a honey token that you established, then you should know that, oh goodness, how is my security? Did they compromise something? Or maybe I want to monitor what that adversary has done further. So just ways of knowing what you can do and what the adversaries can do against you also. Okay, let's go down. So HTTP methods, that's one we did before. Security headers. So here's more, similar to, so it's kind of like your directory traversal a bit, but it just uses a different type of algorithm to generate different resources that do exist. So from the base directory that we were looking at, it says that there is one PHP file here, and there's a DVWA CSS. CSS has one CSS file. There's an image folder. It was able to determine 2 PNGs. Okay, the longest directory structure to depth link from its current word list. And this is the link that it was able to find. So DVWA CSS. Sitemap generator. Okay, slow Loris attack. So this was an attack that worked long time ago as a DOS. I want to say this, yeah, this was a DOS type of attack. So it's a long time exploit. But some of these CVEs, your common vulnerability and exposures, might work against the system that you're currently scanning. So based on what's in the database, it might tell you that, you know, this might be susceptible to different types of attacks. Stored cross-site scripting, it did not find any cross-site scripting vulnerabilities. Okay. Allowed user agents, so at least it sent these user agents and it did not have an issue. Like some things are just random there. Again, vhost, so that's the virtual host that exists based on its word list. If it could determine, it would give you that information. Let's see what else. Okay, there's other things. It's not susceptible to this, it's not susceptible to that. Could not find any news feeds if it was present. At least from the signatures that it knows about in malware, it says the host appears to be clean. Okay, security headers, more sitemap generator, different scripts that are run, again, based on others. So some scripts may call a different one. WordPress, can it enumerate WordPress files? It did not determine this to be WordPress, but if it was a WordPress, you do get an enumeration result, at least the old WordPress directory structure. All right, and now we're finished. And again, that scan took, you know, thank you for the math, like an hour and a half to complete. All right, and that's how we look through some of the results. Any questions with that? Any issues, concerns? Okay, I am not saying anything. Let us continue. Let me put that camp out there for a bit. Okay, without loss of generality, we can, oh, I'm sorry, I see a comment here. So that's a question. Could you do HTTP minus something? Well, if I'm honest with you, I have never tried to do HTTP minus. So it's a really, really good point that you bring up. You know, because why do so many scripts at the same time? Others I'm not concerned with. These are the specific ones that I like. I don't know. I've never come up with that. So what I do in my analysis, when I do utilize the Nmap scripting engine, when we go through HTTP star, we see everything that we do like. I take out the specific ones that I like, and then I script all of those to run. So it doesn't take all of the time, but I do it. I program it myself. Oh, good. And so it looks like you actually can. So if you say not HTTP and not so many and not brute form and star, you can take out things that you don't want. So great comments down there. Hatman, thanks for that information. Very, very good. You know, and it's whichever method you prefer. I'm glad that you see can I remove things? So actually, I never thought of that as a developer. I'm like, well, I'm just going to program specific, description that we're interested in. But I love the comments here. Great job, everyone. And great book resource at the bottom as well. All right, so DNS scanning, very similar to before, right? So DNS star, I'm not going to go through it because I have the results here. We'll take a look at the results real quick, and then we'll go through further. So this is the command if you did want to run it, just as we did, instead of HTTP, this one is DNS star. And then we name it DNS star. All right, so let's look at the results for that. Yep, so we're done with this one. So DNS star executed the command just as we have, and that version 7.91, time of the scan. Right, so I don't think this one took as long, did it? Where is our completion? Looks like this one was, yeah, this was fast, like only 41 seconds. And I should have seen that up here too. Yeah, connect. Okay, anyway, so yeah, this was a short scan. Yeah, completed right here. Sorry, I missed it at the top. All right, so anyway, if we look at the results here, port 21, 22, this was DNS. So in fact, we could have just said, focus on port 53 or so. Okay, port 80, this is what it could determine, fine, SSL 3306, MySQL. Linux version that we're scanning. All right, so DNS blacklist. This did not work in a specific script, and then it couldn't guess the domain. If there were others that we're actually going after, you do have more rich information. Like if we did this against hackon.org or something. Oh, in fact, I didn't mean for it to go to hackon.org. Let's take a look at hackon.org. I should have one then. Yeah. Okay, so that one, malware. Well, that one might be missing from here. I'm trying to see if I should find this scan. I'm looking if I have one that is complete for you. I do. Okay, so this is one we ran last year, but still, this does have some of the detail that we're able to provide in the DNS star. And as we're looking at things, this is sufficient. Yeah, let me put this. I'll update. Looks like that was over 10 minutes, I think. 10, maybe 12 minutes to complete the scan. Again, that's just public math here. But so if we do DNS star hackon.org, whichever site that we're going after, that we're looking at. All right, I'm coming down. A few ports that were open last year when I ran this scan. All right, so here's what I'd like to look at, the DNS brutes. So DNS brute can determine like subdomains from where it currently exists. And this one, in its word list that was used by default, you can also change the word list parameters. It found that there was a stats.hackon.org, and an ftp.hackon.org. Other sites, based on the lists, will provide better information for us as necessary. I'll upload this in the in tonight's upload of the scans. Okay, now this is, so we were talking about this before, of categories. So instead of using DNS star, ACTP star, SSL star, I can do specific scans based on the categories that we're interested in. We are at the top of the hour. We've done some intense looking through some things. The rest goes faster for these types of scans. We won't spend too much time on them, but I just want you to see a couple so you can be familiar with the scans that we have executed. Let's take a 10-minute break. We'll come back 10 minutes after, and then we'll continue. Okay, I am back. I apologize for the extra 3 minutes right there. I'll ensure I add it on as we continue. Yeah, and all is well. Okay, want to verify we're back. Can you hear me? Screen, can you see the screen? Is everything okay? The stream. Okay, well, this is interesting. All right, if the screen is not working, okay, let me stop the share and start again. 1 second, please. Well, how about this? If I click forward, did you see that the screen has advanced? Nope. Okay. All right, let me go ahead and stop this. Still on nope. Wow. All right. Well then, that's interesting. Okay, so let me stop. Okay, let's bring up the screen share again. I want to share. Wait, I don't think that's the right screen. Change screens. Screen share. Okay, I think I'll show you this one. Okay, I am sharing the screen now. Can you see this? Let me go back one. Okay, it should say execute multiple script scanning. Okay, seems okay. All right. Excitements about virtual world. Okay, all right, guys, let's continue. Let's continue. So now, as we were mentioning before, we were doing initial individual scans previously. Then we can do some scans with using the dots, the star feature, so HTTP star, DNS star, SSL star, to execute all scripts with that initial keywords that we are indicating in the wildcard. Your expert analysis at the bottom, you can also remove some scripts and dramatically save time in the analysis if you use the and not. You refer to the comments in the slides. That's also perfect. You modify and tailor based on what you require. There are also categories. So we can utilize specific scripts under each of the categories that we spoke about on the left side of the screen to help us automate the attack. So back on our nmap.org website, this is the link right here at the bottom side. If we look towards the left, there are categories. These categories have various scripts based on category. So I mentioned it before, authentication, the safe, malware, fuzzer, intrusive, and different scripts, that are specific to categories that can also help us automate the. So let's do a few. The external command, some details about the external scan. This one lets us run multiple scripts together at once that allows to do things like external discovery, DNS discovery, cross-site domain policy, cross-site scripting, database searches to see if this one has been identified, this site, whatever site that we're looking at, has been identified as being susceptible to cross-site scripting. Kitors, SMTP, relay checks, showdown searches. assuming that the parameters are correct, so many things. Now here are some commands to execute for that. I'm going to put it in the chat, and I want to also show you that here we're starting to change. So I showed you one way of doing output. That's where you use the append sign, the caret, to the right. Yeah, caret to the right side. This one now, we're going to start switching to using the hyphen OA, the OA for all outputs. So everything that we do, I don't have to do the caret anymore. I'm just going to say use all outputs, and then the results of the scan will be produced in Nmap, greppable form, normal form. There's three: normal form, greppable form, and XML. XML formats for us. So let's go ahead and do the scan. Okay, I'm gonna stop this scan, as it's going. I don't need that one running anymore. Clear. Okay, just if you can confirm for me, I'm in the Kali Linux terminal. Is this what you see? No. So I see Harvard, not needed in using the -OA, and that is because it's already going to save out to different formats, and I'll show you in a second. If y'all can confirm with me, can you see that I'm in the Linux terminal? Okay, yes, you are seeing the terminal. All right, perfect. Okay, so this is the command. Let me go ahead and place the command in our chat. Okay, and then here we go. Nmap-sv nmap-sv. I'm going to change a little bit. I'm also going to use -v, for adding some verbosity to the script, and that's okay. You don't have to. I'm just going to do an audible and throw that in there. Script. Let's do script external scan, and then the IP address that we're going after, 169.254.8.83-O capital A, and then we're going to give it a name. This is Nmap external DVWA, and then I'm going to press enter. Now, as this is running, we can see since we use verboteness, we added some verbosity. You can use -v. I believe you can also do -vv for extra verboseness. But as it's scanning some of our external information, it's going to provide those details down below. So some of the things. Oh, in fact, let's take a look at the save. Let's see what it saved, because we introduced a separate way, right? We introduced the OA here, so we didn't have to do the caret this time because I want to interact with Nmap as it is scanning, see the input without having to do a tail or use the D function, to look at the files separately. All right, so if I go into our File Explorer, I'm in my share. Here we are. Okay, so as we're in the share, notice at the bottom here, I said this is what we're going to run: nmap-sv-v --script external IP address -OA, and then we just gave it a name: nmap_external _dbwa, and then I said that -OA gives us 3 output formats. So those output formats are right here: nmap_external dbwa, and then we have the the gnmap, your nmap normal file. This is your greppable nmap. This is your normal nmap output. You can just read this in any text editor. And then the XML format, nmap dbwa.xml. So for the most part, our slides will utilize the -OA. This one is to have different options of whatever you like to do. Okay, and then let's look at the results. So here, this is the vulners script that is being executed, and we're also going to utilize the vuln, VULN script when we do our vulnerability scanning. So from the vulnerability scanning, this is very, very nice. Like Nmap gives at least some assessment of vulnerabilities based on what is loaded in its database. Okay, so for port 22, right? Port 22, this is the script that we're looking at. It's telling us FTPD version 1.3.2. And then here are some potential vulnerability details about it. And then this number, you see, like this is its vulnerability index. You know, the larger the number, the more likely of a true exploit existing and working against the system, especially when it gives you that true indication of, oh, there's an exploit ready. And then it also gives you a link to where you can find out more about that specific vulnerability. There are times that it has CVE, others are different types of CVE, like the same index. So what I'm going to do, I like CVEs more, or exploit database. We're going to talk about exploit database before, but let's go ahead and look at this real quick. So if I copy this reference, it's telling us that this version, 1.3.2 Charlie 2C for Pro FTPD. Let's copy the link and let's go there. Now this is going to load for us. Right. Okay, so here we are. We're looking at its score of likelihood to be exploited, you know, vulnerable in the wild, 10. So likely an exploit is going to exist for this specific vulnerability that it uncovered for us. Type exploit DB, reporter. So this is in Metasploit. Okay, modified. The last time it was modified 2010, and then it gives us some details about it. Right? And this is the CVE. The CVE. Now I'm more comfortable looking at the CVE information about a vulnerability. Now we have some code that can actually be utilized in like things like the Metasploit framework to see how can I take advantage of this vulnerability. And then if we were also able to find this on exploits DB, there are times that you can even download the code itself. You can download the code and then add that to your exploitation framework. So I just click on that specific CVE under the vulners site, and then it gives us information, it gives us details. So this susceptible vulnerability existed for version FTPD 1.3.2 as well as 1.3.3. So seeing those, we would likely be able to pivot directly into Metasploit. And something else on Metasploit, I should remember, it would also be to search for CVEs. So we'll see, like, in case we uncover CVE, immediately search in Metasploit and say, hey, does that exist? We'll talk about a tool called Searchploit. You can also search in Searchploit before even loading Metasploit to see, does an exploit exist in our current database? If it does, then we can immediately pivot into Metasploit, throw an exploit, and see if we can gain access to that system. All right, let's return. Okay, so this external, very, very, very good category script for us, vulners. All right, so now we can just see other details that are provided. You know, anytime I'm scanning something, I do see exploit, especially with the large number. You know, I'm saying to myself, okay, all right, this is going to get interesting, because if I have permission, we have permission, especially if we own the system, we may try and exploit and see what happens. So that's for port 21. Port 22, OpenSSH 5.3. Under the vulner script, vulner says OpenSSH 5.3 P1, likely to have exploits. 7.8, it has worked some of the time. You know, that's its index or its score, exploit score. Exploit is likely. 4.6, this is now like, this is iffy. It might not be a full exploit. It could just be a vulnerability. It could be information that is divulged from the distant insight. It all depends. But the lower you go, the less likely that you're going to have you're going to be able to throw a good vulnerability to gain access to the system, assuming that's what we wanted to do for the attack. Port 80, HTTP 2.2.14. Very good high numbers here of exploitation index, likely exploit, and then again we can read further. So you access the link, you see if this is relevant, this is useful, you read, you're like, okay, this might be something, take some notes. We're still doing our advanced scanning, vulnerability scanning, also included here. This is part of the vulnerability assessment that we can provide, and then we pivot into the exploit. Let's go down. Okay, and then a separate script, HTTP cross-site scripted. Was this website reported to be in a cross-site scripting vulnerable database? And it says it was not. It's an IP address that we specified. Other times, if it's a known vulnerability, and that list is updated, I can't recall how often the database is updated that it reaches out to. You might see an alert there. DNS blacklist. Okay, and then that result, and said it failed. All right, so at least that's one of the category scripts that we use. So that's a good one. I do like that for knowing, hey, what vulnerabilities might exist on the system that we're doing. Okay, any questions with this script here? At least the category, anything that we've done so far. All right, not saying anything? Very good. Let us continue. So there are some safe scans, and these ones, you have the full instruction of what to execute in the script. You also have the full results. So we'll just wave our hands because I would love to get into more scans and more things, to utilize, because we've done Nmap. I want to show you other things in our lesson for today. Okay, so safe script, group of less intrusive Nmap scripting engine scripts, which also makes less noise on the victim machine that we're going after while using them, against the remote machine. They used to perform DNS enumeration, DHCP discovery, recursion, HTTP index file finding software version, HTTP trace, etc. Nmap safe. If we look in the slides, we're looking to share advanced scanning. Safe. We did a safe on. So here are some of the results from the safe itself. So we have some more vulners. This is just a vulner script that was executed, very similar to what you've seen previously. All right, so this is good. The auth finder that we executed before with the HTTP star, it is now this specific safe script has that as one of the scripts that is going to run. We have quite a few HTTPs. We've already gone through HTTP. SSL cert, it has the SSL cert information. Now, based on the Diffie-Hellman parameters, it says, hey, it's vulnerable because it's using a less secure protocol in how it wants to communicate. That means information could be divulged if we might be able to figure out the keys, a lower secure key exchange. And then this is a CVE that can tell us further more information about that. Yeah, Diffie-Hellman key exchange, insufficient group strength. And then other types of, I think this is also a DOS attack, the Poodle, but this is old. This is an old one, yeah, 2014. But again, it's cool that you can read further details about this type of scam. So this is good. Banner, So the banner from MySQL, it tried to get some information that it could. So at least some data is being provided back, but in raw bytes. So it's likely a specific um, command handshake. Okay, and then we're done. This one completed in 360 seconds. So I think that's about 6 minutes or so. So now we're back. They're safe discovery scans. Let's see. In discovery, and really we would spend more time, but we're familiar with a lot of these. I want to hit on some of the really interesting ones. So I like how there's a banner right here for the SSH, the open SSH. This is the actual banner that was responded back when you tried to connect. Also a good way of determining its version. There's some HTTPs, we've done those previously, HTTP enum. The SSL ciphers. These are ciphers that were provided from the certificate. And then here, it's good that it tells you some warnings. Now it's older by this point, but it says a warning, one of the blocks inside the triple DES encryption scheme, one of the blocks here might be susceptible to a specific type of attack. All right, and that's the discovery. At least that's what I'm thinking of as interesting as we review these things quickly. I'm sorry, the information about the discovery that we just looked at discovery. All right, authentication, different mechanisms to try and authenticate and log in. That one is in here, scan as off. Looking further, here we are. This is the specific script that we ran using the -OA, and we gave it the name nmap auth dvwa. So these are the results here, and definitely, as I say, as an exercise to the expert, please spend time executing these commands, run it one by one, and spend time, look at each line and figure out, okay, I like this field. All right, I see how I can gain information from this script or that script, and then you add it to your toolbox. And I keep mentioning that it's just that it's easy to glaze over looking at each line and say, I'm just looking at lines, but this is crucial in how we figure out how to scan and exploit systems out there. Okay, so lots of things that went out verbose mode. Oh, okay, so in this case, in this scan here, let me show you this. So this scan, I also enabled the debugging flag. So the debugging flag -D, this provides additional information, but also error messages. It's more verbose error messages. Because if I'm trying to execute a script, some scripts require specific arguments. And if you don't have those arguments, the entire thing will fail. But at times without indicating the debug flag, you won't know the reason why it failed. And it might tell you, enable debug, it'll say, missing this parameter or that parameter has not been specified. So that's just why I'm throwing in the debug parameter here. And that's also why we're getting additional information at this side. Right, so it's also telling you that this is what it's doing, and then this is the parameter. This is what it's going after. Okay. So errors where it might have had an error, it will present that up top. All right, now overall for this auth, what it is telling us, port 80, enum password. So this one, it did not, it might have had an issue or so working, but we know before the HTTP, the HTTP brutes, I think it was brutes or so, that it actually did perform a brute force testing, and it did determine that there was the admin and password that did exploit, or you can gain access to the system. Right. Okay, so intrusive, this is a bit more intrusive, more susceptible, dangerous scans against the victim system. So looking at aspects that are unique, we're familiar with the SSL. It tried a MySQL brute. So if you do see MySQL brute, if you do know that there is MySQL running, then you can actually try this specific script against it, which I would. If I know that there is a database specifically, then I would launch this exact script and I'll try and change the parameters. I would feed it specific files, username and password files, and then see if it can automate logging in for us, and then return the results when it's complete. So the malware scan, this one scans if the system is performing indicative of having a malware infection. So I did this one on HackCon. Okay, I have one on HackCon. So we scan, and this one doesn't have anything. There's nothing unique or specific. Yeah, malware. All right. Yeah, at least for right now, I don't rely on the malware scan. It's not, doesn't really help much. Okay. Fuzzer. So Fuzzer is a good one. Not good results here at this time. But it would try and see if it can determine different paths from fuzzer. It looks like it did not perform a good scan that I expected in the fuzzer. That we'll just have to scan and see what is useful. One second. Okay, so here, since we're talking about fuzzer, let me choose that. Yes. Can give an error. Keep this in the editor. Yes. All right. So this scan, similar to our fuzzer, you notice at the bottom here we did fuzzer against DVWA. So I also ran the fuzzer against the Metasploitable 3, and this is in your scan files. This is one of the -OA, and this is the nmap fuzzer Metasploitable 3.nmap file. Okay. So there are lots of information that is provided, fingerprints that come down. It cannot recognize something. So this is, I was talking about it yesterday, in which nmap's like, I don't know what this is, but here's details about that scan that you can provide over here, and then hopefully we can determine additional information. By now, someone should have found the results of that. Okay, default scan on DBWA. Default. So HTTP robots we've seen before. Okay, nothing else useful here. Close that as well. And it's going fast as we've done scans, so I'm just trying to select what do we key in on. Broadcast is usually things on your internal network. And as an exercise to the expert, You can take a look at broadcast. That one, not too exciting. There's a lot of data, but it's just not that useful. So the DOS command, this one takes a long time. And one of the things the DOS is doing is it's trying to determine if it can DOS a site that is given. So this just takes a while to run. Now, as this is running, you are checking the site to say, okay, have I DOSed it? It's still running. All right, it's still okay. Is it still running? Oh, it just went down. The DOS, it is susceptible to DOS attack. There's some of the things that you can run here. No real output for a while. Like this thing can run for hours. You're just supposed to be checking your site as it runs. Root scan. Okay, this is where it's trying to brute force accounts that it knows about. So brute scan is good. FTP brute force, no valid credentials, at least from what it was given. It tried 42,000 checks for brute force. So SSH brute, this is when we're talking about the debug flag. The initial one failed, but we go back in and execute this scan individually to see if it can perform brute force for us. HTTP could, at least this scan was not not that good, but it did try some different types of attack. Also notice MySQL brute, it did not find any results. All right, very good. Sweeney, Zvinya, so, forgive me, I'm butchering your name, but excellent comment down there at the bottom of the chat. So you are saying, clear. So if we want to see more information about a script, we can do nmap script help, and let's put in brute. All right, so this is awesome. So this gives us a lot of information about the actual scan itself. Okay, so that category. So this is very nice. Thanks for that. Thanks for this comment. Very, very good. This is very useful. So you can see different aspects that it is running, specific website for that actual NSE, the nmap scripting engine, and you can determine further what you'd like, or you can execute these individually. Great comment. That's good. Thank you for that. All right. All right. Okay. Now, just another special note. So there are other categories that we did not include. So one of the categories is like exploits category. There are a few others that are there, and you just have to take your time. Take your time scanning, knowing what looks good, what do you like, what do you want to implement, and then include it in your toolbox. So additional categories do exist, and you can find that information here. Okay, let's pause here, and I'll pause for questions. Are there any questions or comments? Okay, I'm not seeing anything. All right, no problem. Let's go ahead and load the next presentation. Or do you want to take a 5-minute, sorry, do you want to take a 5-minute break here and we continue, or do you want to just power through? Which would you like? Close. All right, I see, go on, I agree with you. We shall press. Okay, now we're going to go into slide, that's a good. 1 second, and here we are. So we are continuing. All right. Yeah, this is going to be some fun. So different tools. So let's pivot and launch a few other tools out there to do some enumeration for us. Let's learn more. Then we'll come back to a few more advanced things with Nmap, and then we should be set for vulnerability scanning and enumeration from that point. All right. So enumeration, some objectives to do as we carry out some enumeration attacks. Variation on the theme, we've discussed all of these before. Find out additional names, additional banners, additional web pages that might exist that we do not know about before. Perform directory traversal. See if we can automate traversing different directories, subdomains to see like where else might information reside for us that either we can exploit or we can exfiltrate information from the target system. Find out potential usernames, email addresses, name and contact information, different links. Look into robust.txt. What we, we're like, hey, that's lovely. This is disallowed directories. Very good. I'm going to go into your directories and see what might be there useful for the taking. So here's a tool that is included for you. This tool is called Photon. Sorry. This tool is called Photon. What Photon is meant to do, and a couple of tools are going to do very similar functions. It will perform different types of scans for you. It will see like which links link out to external sites, which links come into internal sites like internal directories that you might be able to traverse into that you did not see before, but a reference / link was discovered somewhere in the analysis or in the crawling of the web page. There's also a DNS, like there's a pretty nice nifty DNS map, okay, that we can look at. So without further ado, let's execute some commands. This is the command that we're going to execute. I put it in the chat. Let's bring up this guy. And in this case, what we will do, let's navigate. Let's navigate to our dependencies folder that is loaded for you in the on your desktop. Otherwise, if you are not able to, there should be a link to dependencies that you can download from our shared drive. Yeah, there's a dependencies folder. So Kali dependencies, if you can download that, extract it onto your desktop, and then you should be configured and ready to continue with what we're doing. So let's navigate to that folder. Okay, so at least the path that I am in is home, Kali, desktop, dependencies, Photon. Now inside the Photon directory, there is photon.py that we're going to use in this analysis of hackcon.org. Okay, yep, so the command is in the chat. Let's go ahead and execute that now. Here we are, Python 3, photon.py, and it's good that it's coming up. Photon.py, I tested this beforehand to make sure it's going to work. Photon.py-u https ://www.hackcon.org -- I want you to do DNS-T5, and we'll press enter. Did I type something incorrectly? Oh, yeah, if I can spell DNS. DNS. All right, so now as we are executing this, this may take time. Photon may take time, it could be quick, it all depends as it's trying to reach out, and definitely as I am further distance away, it could take longer to execute. So some of these scans are fast, some might take a while. This one was fast, that's good. And if you're having any issues executing this, please let me know in the chat. All right, so what I want to do, let's go into that dependencies folder. And we just executed Photon. So now whenever we execute Photon, the results are here. It creates its own folder here, hackcon.org. Let's go into Hackcon. Now there are some of this information is useful, others not always that useful. But let's go through these. So I will show you the things that I like and say, okay, that's not that useful always. Right. So external, I like external. So what external is saying are from, as it's crawling the sites, what it was able to do is creating a link of references to other locations from my current domain, as well as external dependencies. Like I might reach out to Facebook or Imgur, so many other sites. So those other websites I usually throw away, but I do focus on things like this, links that reference back into the same domain because this was hidden somewhere or present somewhere. At least it's a reference that it was able to discover. And now with each of these, like this appears to be a 2011 folder. Let's see what this looks like in our browser. So I'm just going to take a HackCon reference and see what that looks like if that is a thing. So from hackon.org, there is a folder or a link that brought us to this area. From hackon.org, HackCon 06, 2011, HackCon 6, 2011, and just some details. To February 2011. Now, other sites might have good, useful information that was hidden. We did not know it was meant to be out there. So you go through the site and you start reading. You do reading, you do searching, you click on some links and just see that, okay, that's useful. Like I might have found a new username or password. Each of these, depending on the nature of the attack, you would do the view page source and then see, okay, might there potentially be passwords or other comments that I could find to help me in that penetration test? You don't know. So that's why it's that investigation. And previously I put up a puzzle. You're trying to put the puzzles together so you can see the big picture. But at least that's what we will do as we gather these links together. There's a HackCon 04, 2009. '08, etc. So that, just other information that is present. So I do like external. I like the external text file that is present. Fuzzable, this is using different keys. Was it able to identify additional directories that might exist out there? So fuzzable or external and fuzzable, I'll put those two lists together and, based on the attack, however many people are working with me, I'll say, okay, start researching, see if there's anything useful in any of these sites that we are uncovering. And how do you know what's useful? You just have to see. Every website is different. Every attack is different. Okay, I like the PNG. So this PNG is nice. This gives us an overview of the different domains and how they appear. So it's a visual representation of like your dig and NS lookup information together. Yeah, dig and NS lookup. So for hackcon.org, this is what we looked at. The A record is returned to us. We can discover DNS information. There are different name servers that are responding. ns1.unoweb.no, and we saw this yesterday. This is the IP address for that system. This is one IP address that is related to hackcon.org. This is another one that was present at the time of the scan. ns3.unoweb.no. This name server was also present and is involved with this domain over here, hackcon.org, and this is the IP address for that system. So it's a visual, not everything is text. This is really cool visual. You can take this, put it on the web or something, add it to your scan, provide this back to the user and say, hey, here's some information that we were able to find. Your mail record, your mail server, mail gateway. Okay, this is the IP address for reaching that system here, right? And that's from your MX record, from your NS lookup. Okay, and then finally here, kind of a summary. So, and hackcon.org, seen at 91.189.123.141, IP address for HackCon. Hackcon.org also responds to www.hackcon.org. The server that is used, Apache 2.4.10 Debian. Technology information, Debian, Apache 2.4. HTTPS is also enabled. Apache servers responding to both HTTP and HTTPS. And then the FTP welcome banner provides this information. Welcome to pure FTP. Okay, your user number 2 of 50 allowed. So that's pretty interesting information that is being responded to from the domain that we just reached out and scanned. So I do like this. I do like this scan. I love words. Sometimes a picture is a good summary of a lot of text. This is a good tool to use for that. So Intel, this is additional information that could be gathered from crawling that site itself. So Intel, you usually expect to see email addresses, contact information here at the Intel. Right, so generic, yeah, so here, things like this, email. So there's an email post, hackcon.org, right? Post at hackcon.org, and then this is the site that had this reference. All right, and a lot of these are emails. Most of these appear to be emails, so that's cool. Okay. How to reveal fake news. Cool. Okay. Internal sites are mainly references back to myself. Like what else can we reach specifically or stemming from the current domain that we gave it? There are quite a few links all to itself. Many of these are legitimate. Like you want the user to actually, click on these links at different times. Sometimes the links are meant to be hidden, just for the browsers to see. But if we can expose these, then it gives us different areas that we're going to analyze. Right. Robots.txt file. Remember we went through the robots.txt file yesterday. The robots are saying which full links should be ignored by website robots or web crawlers. These three. And as I mentioned, one of the first things I'll look at is, oh, okay, you have a robots.txt file. Let's see what's in that directory. And then different scripts. If I found a reference to a script in source code somewhere, it provides that. All right, so that's Photon. That's the Photon tool. Hidden in the slide, there's a separate tool called Raccoon. So Raccoon we installed yesterday. We configured it appropriately. Raccoon pretty much gives very similar information to Photon. But why do I include it? Because at sometimes Photon will not work, and so you pivot. Use another tool that might provide the information that you need, and Raccoon is a backup to Photon. But if you can get Photon to work, just fine. That's sufficient. And it's for this type of information that we can gather. Yeah, and then we're just talking about the scripts and what we can find. All right, directory buster. So this is really good, in which we get into directory traversal. But we've been going for a little bit. 5 minutes. Let's take a 5-minute break. We're at the top of the hour. 5 minutes. Take a walk. Let's come back, and then we'll come to conclusion on our scanning from this point, and then we move into exploitation for tomorrow. We'll finish up tomorrow and then go into exploitation. All right. I'll see you in 5 minutes. Okay, welcome back. Hope everything is going well. Hope you had a good walk. All right, let's continue. Verifying, can you hear me okay? And can you see the slides? Okay, excellent. Thanks for the confirmation. All right, let's do directory traversal. So a tool in our repository called Directory Buster has very different features, nice features to get us to get started, on seeing, hey, how do we traverse the directory? What files and resources and features might exist? So in the slides, I kind of try to give us a walkthrough of a few things to click on, but we'll just do that together all right now. Let me go ahead and do some housekeeping real quick. Clean this off. All right. So from our Kali menu here, let's type in directory buster dir. So directory buster, great GUI tool for analyzing directories. Now, when this comes up, let's go ahead and do directory traversal on DVWA. So we'll enter in the IP address, HTTP 169.254.8.83, and we'll specify port 80, port 80. Now, so this is fine using the auto switch head and get methods. Number of threads, I'm going to increase that. So threads, simultaneous connections, so this thing can move faster. So just increase that number. Okay. All right, now here, it's saying to provide a list of files, like an enumeration list. What is that input file? Right? So I gave you a word list file for directory traversal in the dependencies folder. So we click on Browse. So yeah, we're adding the dependency file for a word list for directory traversal. So here I click on Browse. Let's go to the desktop. Browse desktop dependencies. In the dependencies folder from the desktop, if we click on word lists, and now from the word list, we are doing directory traversal. So I included, it's like a list that I thought was really good and useful. So I put certain words together and removed superfluous ones. So directory traversal, and then I'm going to select directory traversal _1. And we'll say select. So here we've selected our directory traversal file to use. Now, over here on the right side, there are different file extensions. So you can specify a specific starting path if you want. We'll keep the default at this point. So in the specific files that we want to look for, you can leave this as like star. If you want to say star, look for anything that might have an extension, you can use star. In this case, let's say I want to do return information that's PHP files, HTML, PHP, HTML, CSS. Yeah, so we can start there. PHP, HTML, CSS. And you can add others. If there's specific files that you're looking for, EXE, PNG files, whatever you want. You can be specific if that's part of your account. And then let's hit start. So once we're done, we're ready, we can hit start. And now with the different threads that we established, each of those threads are going to run different scans and configurations, start to crawl from different directory areas. One of the things though, this tool is good, but sometimes if it encounters too many errors at once, then it will present an error screen saying, hey, I've encountered more than 20 errors, I'm halting at this point. And it does that to not appear to be DOSing a site. They're trying to be nice because this is a OWASP tool. OWASP, they do a lot of great tools and analysis for protecting websites and making things more secure. The OWASP project is a large overarching umbrella, but they also halt things to not DOS the site, as I mentioned. Okay. Now, as that is going on, we can look at the results here. So there are two ways that we can view the results that it provides to us. We can either click on the results list view at the top, and we see right now we have found 127 directories and 352 and climbing files as it's continuing on. This is the results tab. And then this is the results tree view that allows you to have a hierarchical structure that you can like semi-navigate and see specific things that this tool is able to scan and identify. Right? So if I look through some of these, so we have like the directory, there's an HTT, there's an HTA access, there's a config directory, there's an icon directory. And remember, we saw this before with the nmap. So the nmap enum script was able to determine some of these things. And it's like, oh, wow, that's really good. Nmap does that. Other tools can do this in greater depth. So this tool was specifically built for that, for this type of enumeration and analysis. Thus, it's more robust. It's able to give you many, many more robust features and execute this, in a relatively short amount of time. So as I look through these, I'm just saying like, oh, okay, here's something, docs. Again, whatever we find, we see it from the stem. So HTTP 169.254.8.83 and port 80, and then from this stem, docs. So I can go into docs and I can see some additional details. Yeah, so if we wanted to, we can right click on an item here, right click, open in browser. Yeah, so right click, open in browser. And then again, this brings us back to that index of. So we see index of, it's index of, it's like, oh, index of. But there are different ways that you can pivot directly from the tool into the website, specifically from what you see, what you uncover, what appears to be, useful. Okay, yeah, Benji, as you're mentioning, so sometimes you will get errors. It depends the server itself, whichever happens. Sometimes errors do occur. So you can try stopping it, revert the service that we're looking at. It could have crashed. It could have encountered an error. It could have gone down, and then we try the attack again. Yeah, but at the same time, so I did mention this is going to encounter errors. Your system might even be faster than mine because as this continues its scan, I will get those errors. I just haven't hit it. I haven't hit those error marks yet. But eventually you may likely get get those error messages, and that's okay. It happens. This is just the tool that we're seeing. Remember the external that we saw before. So this is just one of the links that if I click on this, open in browser, I'm just seeing that, oh, okay, so there's an external PHP 06 test SVN. It's saying access is forbidden, but that resource exists, based on the comments of this Apache server. Now, if you keep getting errors, that's okay. I'm going to stop mine from this point. Actually, I'll let it go a little bit longer. If I look in the tree view, again, you can start to navigate and see a better structure of the directory based on the files that we said I want you to focus on. Docs, HTML, again, you can right click, open in browser. Okay, let's go ahead and stop at this point. So we've scanned. It's good to have a report off of what you scan. You want to bring things off so we can store it, save it, view it at another time, present it back to the user or the people who own whatever it is that you're doing the analysis on, and say, here's what we discovered. Okay. So when it's stopped, either stops on its own, it's traversed everything, it's done, or it just gives you a lot of errors. You're like, all right, I think at this point, this is enough of what we can determine, unless you're just going to keep on clicking, go, 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 go. Right, report. So if we click on report here, please click on report, the bottom right-hand side. We stop and then report. Now, as I said, I like to be verbose with whatever we uncover. So I'm going to select all of these. Simple text file, that's a good one to look at. XML, CSV. And then please select the location to write the reports to. Okay. So I will browse. Let's put it on the desktop. I'll put it on the desktop, create a new folder, and I'll just copy it off from there. Folder, so this is Dirtbuster. I'll just name mine durbuster underscore DVWA. So I'm creating a folder on the desktop. We click browse. I went to desktop DVWA. I click on select directory. So now my directory is selected to save all of these files that I selected up here. Select all of these. And then we'll click on generate report. So when generate report is done, this list will pop up in which it lets us see the information that it just stored to the file, and it gives you a reference up here. That's fine. This is good. Like, again, very, very good tool. I don't need this anymore, so I'm going to close it, because I have my directory specifically here. So let's go into our directory of what has been saved out. There's a CSV file. Let's look at the simple. So if I open simple, this is giving us an idea of this is what it could find at various locations. If I also look at text, so I think text has it a bit better arranged for me. So let's go into text. All right, I kind of want to change the colors just on this one so I can appreciate what we have. So what I'm going to do, I'm just going to copy this over. I'm going to paste this in our share on the host machine. Directory Buster, and then I just want to click on the text file. Yeah, so here, Directory Buster report, the report.txt. You see, this is information about the tool itself. This is the site that we scanned. And then here, I like the way this one is kind of arranged out a little better than the previous simple, because it says directories found with the response 302, and this is from the roots directory. So these directories that were found with a 403 response. So all of these exist. That's a 403 gave us indication of. So directories found with a 200 of a status OK. So for sure we know that these exist. So, 403 again. But at least we can just spend time looking at this, from top to bottom. You can also view this in XML. With an XML viewer, things will be arranged slightly differently. You can expand and contract the responses as necessary. Okay, so that was Directory Buster. And this one we went through fast, but it is an exposure to the tool. Really, really good tool. Here are some of the things that I would look at. And then when we're done, spend time working with the tool, seeing what you like, how does it provide information in manner X or in manner Y, and then seeing like how do you wish to employ this, okay, for your own infrastructure. And then I include the steps that we just followed to scan, generate the report, and then save it off to disk. Let's do some more. Let's do some more scanning. Or in fact, before I continue, are there any questions? Any questions? Any issues with what we've done so far? All right, not seeing anything. Great job. Let's go into Recon Dog. So Recon Dog, another tool that I do like using, open source intelligence gathering tool. It also provides census information, similar to the way Shodan might give additional search engine results, or so then is a wealth of information. Your census is a textual representation or a JSON of what we are doing and what we are able to provide, and then what information might be useful against the system. Sometimes in the JSON, you can see geolocation information, different IP addresses, timing, certificate, just different artifacts that we might use in our attack or in our analysis of the system or in our reconnaissance. Recon dog reconnaissance. And then there are many features with this tool. We will focus on three main ones that I like that is useful to us. That is for sure the vhost. I told you I love seeing the vhost. Like there are the different domains that might exist on that website. Is good. I'm covering that because we didn't know that before, and we can use different tools to automate that analysis for us. Census information and then NS lookup helper. Now the NS lookup helper from Photon, I liked the way Photon presented that, the graphical user tool for us, that PNG of what that domain looks like. But here we can also extract it via regular text. And if worst case, we can refer back to our day one analysis in which we actually typed in the NS lookup, hyphen any query and continue from that standpoint as well. All right, so let's continue here. All right, let's get back into, here we are. So we'll just run this together and see the results that we will uncover. So let's go into our dependencies folder again. Let me do some housekeeping real quick. Okay, here we are. So going into Recon Dog, right here. Okay, so Recon Dog is at this point. So I will right click and open terminal here. And again, where are we? We're at the desktop. We're at home, Kali, desktop, dependencies folder, Recon Dog. Recon Dog, and this is the tool that we're using. So now we can just enter in the commands as necessary. So to get this to work for us, let's go ahead and let me put the command in the chat for you. All right, the command is there, and then it's Python dog, recon dog -t. All right, let's take a look at what HackCon looks like, because it's a real legitimate website out there. Hackcon.org -c8, and remember, there's like 9 or 10 different tools, features that you can choose. I say we're going to focus on 3, because these are the 3 most useful that augments the information that we have not already procured via previous means. And then let's save this to recon dog. So this is the vhost, the virtual host that we're doing. vhost _ hackcon.org .txt. Let's add a txt to the end of that. Okay, so that went quickly. So let's see what we have. Don't use cat. Let's just what? All right, let's use cat. Cat recon dog vhosts. All right, so now if I just cat the file, all right, so what we did, we ran the file here. We saved it to a text file, hackcon.org.txt. Give me a second. I will change that to be a txt in our slides, and then we update this afternoon. We'll have that. It will reference the txt. And now if we read what we just stored, these are all of the other domains that have been detected that are also housed on the same name server as hackcon.org. And sometimes us as a domain owner, if we can determine that there might be sites that are constant to be like DOSed or attacked by other actors or so, it could be useful if we want to consider moving to another domain, because if this entire server goes down, all of these domains go down with it. All right, pretty cool. I like the vhost. I like seeing what's out there. Okay, let's take a look at the census data. All right, if I clean to do that command, it's about to come into the chat. 1 second. All right, you have it in the chat. So let's run Python. You can use the up arrow. So Python dog -t. Now we will use the IP address that we found before for HackCon. Where HackCon is sitting is 91.189.123.141 -c, and we're going to use option 1 this time. And let's say this out to, oh, I misspelled my recon dog. That's fine. Recon G dog. And here, let's call this census. CENSYS, because it's the census information. Census on hackcon.org.json. Information provided is in JSON format. Okay, so when that's finished, let us go into the directory here. And I'm sure I'm on the desktop, dependencies, recon dog. All right, so this is my JSON file that we just brought up before. So this JSON file, Firefox should be able to just view it for us. Firefox. If not, we'll find another viewer. So I just want to drag and drop this onto Firefox. So drag and drop my JSON. So we drag and dropped our JSON file onto Firefox that we ran with the previous command. Previous command, we used the -1. Oh, I think I pasted that command for you. Sorry. Okay. Oh, I did. Sorry, I just didn't scroll down in the chat. All right. Well, you have it doubly, bigly. All right. So with our census.io JSON information, now we see for port 21, right? So this is port 21 that I'm looking at. FTP banner information. So this is the banner that we are able to find from this particular type of scan, the product and the description. Port 80, time, details, Apache server, information exchange between the server and the client, version information. 443, specific certificate, fingerprint, signature that is used, SHA-1 256 bit algorithm RSA. The certificate starts date that this was found, 2015. The end, 2025. Looking at other details that stand out. So we have some forbidden codes here. Apache server 403. Let's see what else is useful. The Diffie-Hellman key exchange, I want to say. Okay, different tags that were found. FTP, HTTP, HTTPS, IP addresses here, and the IP address that we went after. All right, and then the geolocation. So I mentioned it also provides geolocation. So country, where the server is sitting, Norway, latitude, longitude, longitude information. Okay, and then the different protocols that are supported and the operating system. It will change based on how each system responds to you, but at least this is one way of doing additional enumeration on the system and showing it, just in a different format. Okay, the last item that we can run from Recon dog is NSLOOKUP, but we've done NSLOOKUP before, so that's nothing new from that particular scan. All right, let's talk about Wayback. I mentioned the Wayback Machine yesterday. Here we go. So the Wayback Machine. Wayback Machine is a wonderful archive of websites that it was able to download and just store a copy or a version, a full version of websites at different times, at different intervals that what Wayback Machine refers to as snapshots. So in essence, the internet is downloaded multiple times. There are times we want to see which references might have existed of a website at a particular period. It is good to do some analysis of Wayback Machine. You start from today, you move forward earlier and earlier and earlier, because sometimes people make mistakes. An admin might have divulged a password or username or password that's on a website. Days later, someone said, oh, I have a password that I found on the website. So the admin's like, oh, crap, let me go ahead and change that. But what if Wayback Machine took an archive of the previous information? If so, you might be able to analyze that, see some of the changes, and then use different information to launch your attack. Other instances, you might find usernames, like actual people. People, admin names, hierarchical structure of their organization chain of command, their organization structure, which you might have additional people to target or masquerade as, depending on the nature of the attack that you want to do. Those are the details about Wayback Machine, when it was founded, not for profit, and it's been archiving the internet since 2001. So here's some things that it looks like. Let's go ahead and take a look at the Wayback Machine. So here I am. If I go to web.archive.org, https web.archive.org. Okay, now I'm at the Wayback Machine's main site. Then enter in a URL that we want to see how it existed at some time in the past. Okay, let's go ahead and enter in https hackon.org. www.hackon.org. So now it's checking its database, and then it produces results, analysis on the snapshots that it has saved over time. Now, if we really wanted to go back, we are in 2021 right now. Happy New Year, everyone, by the way. We can see that there are entries as early as 2005, likely when this website was first launched. So if we click on 2005, let's go back in time. Well, let's go way back in time and use a machine to do so. Wayback Machine, I made it funny. So if we go to 2005, December 16 was the first archive that we can find here. So let's click on that. December 16, and this is the archive, the time that it took this snapshot. Now, ladies and gentlemen, we are back in 2005. So this is what the Hackon website looked like in 2005 when it took this snapshot. And many times you can explore these links and it will continue in the 2005 reference, because it downloads the internet. Other times, if it's a specific, like an active link, it might pivot you back into the current website. It all depends. That's an idea of 2005 as we do the way back. And so again, why do we look at this? We want to see changes that might have information on the site that we're going after. Let's go to 2012. We have different dates that snapshots have been taken. Let's look at this one. So I'm just clicking on anyone. As you're looking through this, you can look up whatever site that you like, click on any dates, and just have a peer back in time. At this time, 2012, this is the Hackon site. There's most likely a black background here. All right, and then these were the different details. right, that were present, and then you can just browse and see what other information is useful to you if that is necessary for your analysis. Okay. So that's just a tool that is open, available to you. I'll pause for a second if there are any questions, and it's pretty straightforward and simple, but any questions or comments, please, I'll definitely entertain those. All right, not seeing anything. Like, good job for powering through. Well done. So there's just additional, just sites that I'm seeing at the Wayback Machine. Here on this screen capture, it was 2015 that we're looking at, March for 2015, and that's what this HackCon 11 for, yeah, March 2015, March 4, 2015. All right, let's go to another scanning / enumeration tool. This one is called WhatWeb. So WhatWeb is used to identify what is the website, what type of daemons are used to run the website, certification, keys, different aspects, and potentially some vulnerability assessments that it can provide for you. So we have two. We'll do WhatWeb on hackcon.org, and then WhatWeb on our DVWA machine. And then again, we are saving it to a specific output file. Now this verbose key, verbose is useful, otherwise the information is kind of just jarbled together. I don't like it without the verbose, but getting verbose gets you information kind of in this format. Okay, so here we are. Let's go ahead and clean up a little. In fact, let me go back to our share so I can just output and it's already stored there. Okay, so I'm just at our share, whatever share drive or wherever is most comfortable for you. Okay. And then right click and open terminal here. So now whatever I store can just be saved to my share drive again. And I'll just type in the command. Oh, let me tell you, this is what we're about to run. Let's put it down there in the chat. So here we are, WhatWeb, hackcon.org. We're saying don't include color, so everything is just a simple text file, so I don't have ugly bytes I need to get rid of as we're doing the analysis. Color equals never. Verbose, save the output to WhatWeb _ hackcon.txt. Okay, so as that is executing, is doing a different analysis for us. I'm going to do the same to DVWA. So I'm just going to go up to File, New tab. While HackCon is scanning, putting in results, I'm also going to pivot to a new tab and do the same thing for our DVWA machine. Command WhatWeb 169.254.8.h3. Color equals never. Verbose gives us the good format output there. And then we'll name this as WhatWeb dvwa.txt. And then we'll hit enter there. And now as it is scanning, it will provide results. So our HackCon one has completed, and then this one is not going to take. This one should not take time because it's on our same machine. So let's take a look at the results. In our share, the first one we'll look at is hackon.txt. So here again, we're reviewing the results, verifying that this is what I intended for it to start scanning. What web? HTTP, it is moved permanently, that is correct, because it's HTTPS, that was intentional. Now it will go back and then do a rescan for HTTPS to provide us the results for the HTTPS. Okay. So detected plugins, Apache is present. It tells you Apache, and this is the version. So there are different ways that you're seeing the same information, and that's good. You never only want to rely on one tool, because what happens when that one tool is deprecated or updated, or it's just not able to provide responses? Your entire analysis should not halt because you're dependent on one tool. Instead, we want you to be cyber ninjas of all the tools. And so you can know, okay, I need version information. It's not working in Nmap, no problem. I'm going to pivot to any of the other tools to still give us that info. You grab the version numbers, and then immediately, or the next thing we do is we pivot into Metasploit to see, is there a specific exploit for this specific version in a specific application? And if so, throw an exploit and see what happens, as long as you're allowed to do so. HTTP server, the operating system, Debian Linux. The stream that we did still get back Apache 2.4. Right? So that's the service. So the redirection location, and originally we gave it www, so now it says this is where you're supposed to go, is the HTTPS. So you can also launch this again with HTTPS, and then it should provide you very, very similar information. Okay. So that should be everything from HTTP. So I mentioned it pivots to the HTTPS for us. This is the HTTP. That was intentional to only get HTTP. It's like, oh, it has been moved, and it follows the redirection. And now we're starting a new connection to HTTPS right here. HTTPS www.hackon.org. Right. So hackon.org, now we're there. We see the title of the webpage, Hackon, the Norwegian Cybersecurity Convention. Awesome convention. IP address is here. Country, Norway. Here are a summary of some of the flags and artifacts presented back from that connection. For instance, the cookie, cross-site scripting protection. Then again, this is very similar to what you saw before. Apache, version, cookies, PHP, email. It extracted some email addresses, and it gives some details about what I was able to find. So it's a really good, decent tool here. So the email address that it could find from its analysis was post, and okay, it's the same, post@hackon.org. Also recall from the previous tool using our Recon dog, the dog also gave you some of those email addresses. So you just compare, you add all of these together to have one full list of what you uncovered and what's useful for your exploitation. Okay, HTTP only flag, it says this HTTP only flag is included in the communication bag. Okay, strict TLS, so that's good there. Headers, cross-site scripting protection. Okay, and then that's just final closing information. Other sites, so this was hackon.org. We also did this on our DBWA instance. So hackon.org is a good site. You know, that's a good site, good values that you should expect to see whenever you scan websites. Now let's take a look at DBWA. Just real quick. The DBWA, this is the IP address that we scanned, 169.254.8.h3. Apache 2.2.14. Cookie exchanged. open SSL, and this is the version. PHP was also found, PHP version. Perl was discovered, and this is the version 5.10.1. Login, redirection login script. The string was found for login.php. Let's see some more. PHP DVWA cookies that are found, Apache. So this is the next site that it goes into. So it found the login.php. I just went over it right here. Because the redirection, so like, okay, I will follow the redirection and give you information off of that redirect message. Yeah, it's a 169, so it couldn't, determine the geolocation. It's a private, it's a reserved IP address. So version cookies, okay, right here. So it found that this is DVW8, that's good, and it gives details about that. A PHP MySQL web application that is damn vulnerable. More details, PHP, aha. So this is nice. Password field. So it found that, hey, there's a password field, string password from the field's name. Perl we saw before. And that's about it from this side. But this is good. That's if we see specific artifacts, any issues, errors, DVWA, and different links, we can add that to our repertoire, okay, as we do scanning for sites. Yes. Okay, so this is also another very, very feature-rich tool as we scan and also look for specific vulnerabilities or misconfigurations on a particular website. So this one is called ZAP, and ZAP2 is located under the OWASP web umbrella of here's how you uncover, here's how you uncover vulnerabilities or misconfigurations on a site. Scan your site. That's what this was created for. All right, so let's jump right back in. Let me go ahead and close this. Close our manager as well. So I'm going to go up here and type in ZAP. So when ZAP loads, I just click on my Kali start menu here, ZAP. We'll give it a second to load. Now, when this loads, I will select yes, okay, to what it is asking from us. Select yes. Do you want this to be a persistent session? Yes, sure. Okay, now you can update. If it says to update, you can select on these and say update all, if you have time. For the interest of time, we'll just say close. What is loaded here so far is sufficient for today. So now this is the GUI, feature-rich, very, very good scanning tool. Let's go ahead and begin. Let's click on automated scan. So once OWASP is up and running, we click on this automated scan here. And then in the automated scan, let's give it the IP address of DVWA. So we're now focusing on our DVWA instance. So that IP address is 169. That's 254.8.83. Okay. And when that is done, we can say use Ajax Spider. I will select this. I'll go ahead and use our Ajax Spider. Okay, and click on attack. Did I do something wrong there? Let me see. HTTP 169.254. No, I don't think it's HTTPS. I have no idea. When in doubt, click again, and we'll see. We'll see if it works. Did I HTTP? I'm not sure. It's just one of those things. I clicked again and it worked. Did anyone else have an issue with getting the scan to launch? Okay, and then when you click attack one more time, did it go for you? Yeah, twice is a charm. That's always when in doubt. You're like, the hell? I'm going to try this again and see if it works. All right, so at least we got our scan to work. You saw lots of things and text was scrolling across the page. This is awesome. Very, very good scanning results from this OWASP tool. It is very fast. Again, the system that we're scanning is located on our same computer, so the scans are going to be pretty much as fast as possible. It will take longer when you're scanning external sites, especially the further away that site actually is from your machine. Okay, so a few things to click on. Let's go ahead and click on the sites here. So at the top left side, I'm clicking on sites. I'm expanding the sites that we have. I will expand this a bit further. And then here, this is similar to being able to browse the directory that you saw from our previous tool, like a directory buster. I'm just telling you that this is the command that was used. There's a CSS file, image, CSS directory. There's an image directory. If we expand the image directory, we see a couple of images that were present. Okay. As it is looking at one page, it looks at a page and analyzes the details, and then it tries to search from there. So it crawls the website. And as it crawls the website, it provides you details. Again, we can also right-click. So if we right-click on an item here, I just right-clicked on the CSS login.css, just any item. I'm going to right-click on it. And then I can go to open URL in browser. So right-click, open URL in browser. And I can click on Firefox. So whatever item I see that's interesting, right-click, open URL in browser, and then it pivots me over into Firefox, and I can see the actual comments of what was analyzed. And so especially in case something was hidden or so, we're like, hey, I want to see what that looks like. For instance, here's the robot file. Right-click, open in browser, Firefox, and then it should pivot me into seeing the robot.txt file. And it's just disallow that. All right, let's go ahead and close these. Now, the thing that is really interesting is overall, this tool is really great, but guide your eyes to the bottom here and click on alerts if it's not already selected for you, or it looks like this one is pinned. So clicking on alerts, these are the alerts that this tool detected from the site that it is scanning. The sites that you own, when you want to scan it or protect it, see if there are any vulnerabilities that the attacker would use, please scan and then guide your eyes to the alerts, especially. Hopefully you don't have anything that is critical. Okay. Now, something that I'm seeing here that I already love, I'm like, my God, there is directory browsing. Like this site allows me to directory browse. We saw this before, but again, whenever we see that index out, it's like, go to the index of and download everything and see what's there. Perhaps we found a misconfiguration that we might be able to launch an exploit from in another area, or exfiltrate information that they did not know was present. So directory browsing, let's expand this. And then we see that there are three index of that appears to allow us to browse the directory here. So if I right-click, let me right-click, open in browser, Firefox. So again, I went to alerts. So alerts, directory browsing. I'm going to right click on one of these, open in browser, Firefox. Aha, oh, very similar to what we saw before. I'm going to go back to the alerts. So here, this is our index of. Now, index of DVWA at the top here. DVWA, this, the certificate was not light because the certificate is old. And then there's the index of. We can browse that directory. So different aspects that we can find in the directory. Images, lots of images here. Includes the database management system, the MySQL, PHP, database management system. So it's giving off a lot of details here. And that's just what we're uncovering just as we do this analysis. So we saw the DVWA. There is the CSS and then images folder that I said these ones allow directory browsing. Oh, directory browsing. And let's go ahead and click on the Ajax spider. So looking at the Ajax spider, this gives us some indications of which sites that the spider went to and if it was successful. Now, the last thing, let's talk about reports. Always good to have reports out there. Something to show for it and for our work and the effort. So if we go to the top here, report. I'm going to the top, report, and let's click on generate report. Generate HTML reports. Let's just save it on the desktop. And we'll call this zap underscore DVWA. All right. Now we saved a report. We went to report, export, HTML report. The HTML report that is exported gives us alerts and details about the alerts. Alert detail, medium, a header flag was not sent. Application error disclosure, an application failed, but then it includes error messages. You don't want to include that to the user, to the attacker, because this is how we can figure out that, oh, this is a particular version that exists, or maybe there's directory structure that is possible. Directory browsing is possible here, part of the alerts that is saying, oh, directory browsing, okay, that's an issue, very good. Let me browse the directory and see if I can exfiltrate data. Header missing, and then these are just low errors at this site. Okay, and then the last thing, and then we'll come to a halt for today. Just real quick. So this is the results. Some error issues that we can look at and to see, okay, are there some vulnerabilities present? The last thing, I'm just going to right-click in this area, or I'll right-click on sites. So I'm back here again. Right-click on sites. Right-click sites. And then I'm going to go down to export all URLs to file. So that is all the URLs that was discovered from this scan. I'm saying export that to a file, and I can download and review that at another time. So export all URLs to file. I'm going to put it on the desktop, and we'll just say zap URL export.txt. Save. Then right-click, export all URLs to file, and I named it something. Right? If I open it, at least the list that this tool is able to find, it's here. Other websites will be, hackhunt.org, and then the directory structure that it was able to uncover, as well as the details there. Sometimes you'll find something interesting, and that's useful in your. All right, we are now at the top of the hour. Very good, great job. We got through slide 3. tomorrow we focus directly on, well, there's one more tool. We'll do another tool, which is also nice and useful to see, skip fish. Very easy, but good results are there, similar to what we see here in ZAP. And then we pivot into vulnerability analysis, vulnerability scanning, and then exploitation. And how do we take advantage of what we've learned to this point to give an initial primer and some Metasploit, because that's going to be fun. Okay, let's stop here. Questions. Do we have any questions, comments, issues? All right, I am not seeing any questions down below. So great job, great job, great stamina, everyone. Like you're doing a great job. So this has been fun. I'm hoping you're enjoying the tools, many tools you've learned. Some things are like, oh, okay, that's a new feature I can use in my tool belt. Excellent. So tomorrow, let's continue from where we stepped off, and then we'll get ready for exploitation. So please be rested and be excited to exploit some systems tomorrow. All right. Again, thank you and have a great night. If you do have questions, send us a message or we'll definitely go over it tomorrow. All right. Take care, everyone.